This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by.
The London Assembly is the voice of London, composed of 25 members elected at the same time as the Mayor in order to hold him to account, scrutinise his policies and investigate matters of importance to Londoners. Can I welcome members, officers and the public here in the gallery and those watching on the webcast. This is a Mayor's Question Time meeting of the Assembly, which means that all members are invited to attend and ask questions of the Mayor. In case of emergency and any need to exit the building, guests seated in the public gallery should follow security staff and Assembly members should follow the meeting clerk. Members are reminded that any electronic devices should not be placed in front of the microphone, which must be turned on to speak and turned off once finished. Can I now ask the clerk to confirm any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies today from Assembly Member Lord Bailey, Assembly Member Small-Edwards and Assembly Member Wilson, and we have apologies today from Assembly Members, apologies for lateness, sorry, from Assembly Members McCartney and Moema.
Now, since we last met at the plenary to discuss how TfL is delivering for London, the audit panel reviewed internal audit reports. The Transport Committee examined the impact of fare evasion on TfL. The GLA Oversight Committee continued its investigation into devolution. As part of that investigation, the GLA Oversight Committee Devolution Working Group held a briefing with the Senate Chancellery of Berlin and others. The Housing Committee discussed the Mayor's delivery of affordable homes following the publication of the Affordable Housing Monitor. As Chair of the London Assembly, it was an honour and a privilege to lay a wreath on behalf of the Assembly on Monday the 7th of July, along with the Mayor, in remembrance of all victims of the London bombings, and attend the service at St Paul's Cathedral. I've also had the pleasure of meeting with the new Chair and Deputy Chair of the London Youth Assembly to discuss their priorities for the coming year. Now can I move to item 2, declarations of interest. Can I ask Assembly to note the interest set out in item 2? Do Assembly members have any other disclosable pecuniary interests which relate to the items on the agenda for today's meeting, or any other relevant interest, including any declarations in relation to gifts and hospitalities which are not reflected in the authority's register of gift and hospitalities? Okay, I'm now moving on to item 3, the minutes. Can I ask the Assembly to confirm the minutes of the London Assembly Mayor's Question Time meeting held on the 19th of June 2025 to be signed by me as a correct record? Item 4, Mayor's Report. Can I ask the Assembly formally to receive the Mayor's Report covering the period from the 6th of June to the 27th of June 2025? The Mayor will now provide an oral update of up to 5 minutes in length on matters occurring since the publication of his report. Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. As we've heard, this week we marked 20 years since 7/7, when 52 people's lives were cruelly stolen in a cowardly terrorist attack on our city. On Monday, the Chair of the Assembly and I joined their families in St Paul's to hear their names being read out and for a service. More than 700 were injured on that day too. I felt profound grief, but I felt pride too, in the courage and compassion of Londoners who risked their own lives that day to help others, and in the knowledge that 20 years on, our determination to stand together against hatred, extremism and division is stronger than ever. There is, of course, much that makes us proud of our city and proud to be Londoners, not least our collective belief that we can always make our city even better for the people who call it home. Today I've announced £600,000 to breathe new life into 12 high streets across our city, from Erith to East Ham. The other issues I would have dealt with in my opening, Chair, are raised in questions this morning, which I look forward to answering. I've been asked for one oral update, though, which I'll deal with now. It's from Assembly Member Prince on the district line. I'm extremely frustrated by the recent disruption on the district line, which has delivered a level of service well below TfL standards. I want to apologise to Londoners and visitors to our city who have faced disruption. Unfortunately, this year, a series of distinct infrastructure failures, operational issues and some events outside of TfL's control have impacted performance. To be clear, some of the issues are the responsibility of Network Rail. TfL collaborates closely with Network Rail to operate the district line. On the line's Wimbledon branch, south of Putney Bridge station, it is Network Rail which is responsible for power, signalling operation and the coordination of response to TfL's asset failures. In response to these issues, TfL's Chief Operating Officer has met with Network Rail to discuss the ongoing issues and how to resolve them. My Deputy Mayor for Transport has also directly raised concerns with Network Rail, and I've discussed this with the Secretary of State for Transport. TfL is also reviewing its own response and looking to use the lessons learnt to improve the district line's performance long-term and support the championships into the future.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I think, sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I think, you know, it was a very humble apology and recognise that. So, what aspect of this is down to TfL, or is it just down to Network Rail? Or how much can we blame you for?
No, thanks for your question. Look, it's a collaborative effort. I don't want to point fingers at Network Rail or TfL, but they've got to work together. The way our transport network works, it's evolved over 150, 160 years. So there's often coterminous in relation to issues like this. Is the line, which is also Network Rail and District Line. The key thing is for them to work closer together. So if there are issues, they can be resolved quickly. Just to reassure the member, I looked back over the last 10 years to see performance, and it's always been above 90%, except for 2 years when it was 87%. It was 97% in 23, 91% in 94. This year, in the first week, it was 69%. That's not good enough. We need to be north of 90%, really. And so the teamwork has worked in the past. This year, issues with the infrastructure, which Network Rail weren't, in my view, quick enough to respond to on this occasion. But there are many, many occasions where Network Rail are excellent, and we need to make sure that sort of teamwork goes forward and lessons are learned.
It's just unfortunate it happened during Wimbledon, isn't it?
And you can imagine, if you're a visitor to London, if you're doing the right thing using public transport, and you've had a horrendous experience on the district line, the impression you could be left with. And that's why it's really important for us to fix it, not just for residents, not just for those people who live in that part of London, but for visitors to Wimbledon. And we've also, by the way, just to reassure you, met with the team at Wimbledon, TfL have, and they'll meet with them again after the championship to make sure lessons are learned.
Mr. Mayor, there was a second oral question, I think, submitted to you, oral update submitted to you. Is it your intention that you're going to write to that member who's not present in the chamber? And if so, can you share that with the remaining, with all members of the
More than
Assembly?
happy to share. More than happy to.
Yeah. Okay.
Chair, I think many of us wanted to hear the oral update on rape gangs, because the Mayor has refused to answer questions on the rape gangs on numerous occasions, and I'm sure every one of us wanted to hear his update. So, Mr. Mayor, are you not able to give us an oral update on the rape gangs in London?
Chair, if that's a question from the member, I'm happy to answer the question from the member.
Yep.
No, I'm asking you about your oral update that you were asked to by, I believe, one of the other members to update us on.
I think you just asked that oral update.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Mayor is happy to answer your question.
I am. So I'm more than happy to answer the member's question, her question.
No, no. OK. Before we put this on the clock, the idea is that oral updates are given by the Mayor. They are not timed. What is timed is any follow-up on that. So this isn't right. You were asked by a member for an oral update on rape gangs. You never seem to want to talk about rape gangs. But if you were asked for an oral update, why can't you just give an oral update and then the clock starts going after that? Because many people wonder why we don't ask additional questions, and it's because we're on the clock. And every one of the members will agree with that.
Well, Chair, as is normally the case, when oral questions aren't answered, the member gets a written response. The questioner is going to answer. If the member wants to ask me questions, I'm happy for her to answer the question.
My point, colleagues, is the fact that this is on the clock. If he did what he was supposed to do and give an oral update on rape gangs, as requested, that isn't on the clocks of the members. And that is the hope. So I wanted to come in after that because we've got very many questions, because you are not going to answer questions from us until September. And therefore our time is important. Yours isn't so important because you just ask easy questions to the Mayor. We are asking challenging questions to this Mayor, and we want as many answers as we can.
The Mayor was going to answer the question. He's going to write to every Assembly member as well as the member concerned who raised it. I think you have an option. I understand and have some minor sympathy with your position about the timing, but it is your choice. You either ask the question, which the Mayor is prepared to answer, it will come off your time because that's how our procedures and processes work, and you know that's what it is, or you don't. And I can't help, in terms of that, I can't make, we've had this conversation, I can't make the Mayor do something that he doesn't want to do.
No, unfortunately, none of us can. I will ask a question then, and I'd like a brief answer, but a factual one. Do you believe, Mr Mayor, that there are grooming gangs now in London?
So, Chair, in London, the vast majority of what we're dealing with is county lines, which involves organised criminal networks moving illegal drugs.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I stop you? This is the answer you keep giving me. You know what a grooming gang is now. Even you must have picked up on what a rape gang is. Perhaps if I put it that way, you'll understand more. It's that I want the answer to. I want an answer from you. Does London have rape gangs in it? Because you've said before they don't, and I don't want to hear about any other sexual exploitation. I want to hear about the rape gangs.
Well, Chair, the picture in London is different to what we've seen in other parts of the country, and this is what the latest Met analysis indicates, but it remains vigilant.
I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Ms.
Assembly Member Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, would you agree that on such an important and sensitive issue, using the right language matters? And I refer to the BBC report that was released recently that makes no reference to rape gangs.
Well, it's for members to use the language that they seem best, but I do welcome the national inquiry that's been announced and will play our part in London to ensure we learn any further lessons that come out of the inquiry. The Met Police remain vigilant, as you'd expect them to do so, and they police without fear or favour.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we now move to questions on the priority order paper. Each group is allocated an amount of time to ask their questions that is proportionate to their size. The first question is titled Manifesto Pledges from Assembly Member Hall.
Thank you for your question. It's been just over 12 months since I was re-elected as Mayor for a third time, and this month also marks a year since the new Labour government took office. I'm proud that since the general election, the Labour government has helped us to go further and faster in repairing some of the damage left by the previous government. We've managed to negotiate a £2.2 billion multi-year funding deal for TfL, the biggest settlement for transport in over a decade, on average more than double what the previous government gave to London per year. This will help us to upgrade and improve London's transport network and get to work on renewing some of London's critical roads, tunnels and flyovers. We've secured the biggest and longest ever funding settlement for housing, £11.7 billion over 10 years, which represents up to 30% of the government's new £39 billion social and affordable homes programme, as well as support for a City Hall Developer Investment Fund. We've also secured £17 million from the government to refurbish up to 500 new empty homes and open a new ending homelessness hub to prevent more Londoners from sleeping rough. With strong backing from the government and overwhelming support from Londoners and local businesses, we're moving ahead with our plans to pedestrianise Oxford Street. We know that London's hospitality sector and nighttime businesses are crucial both to the city's economy and our tourism offer. That's why we lobbied the government, who have announced that they want to give City Hall new powers over licensing to help boost our city's amazing nighttime economy and enable hospitality businesses to thrive. And it all comes on top of what I've been doing at City Hall to deliver my manifesto, including turbocharging productivity in our city through the London Growth Plan, investing record-breaking amounts into the Met Police Service to keep Londoners safe, launching the Warmer Homes scheme with boroughs to bring down energy bills, investing over £7 million to deliver major improvements to London's rivers, launching the Greener Schools programme to help schools in London become more energy efficient, continuing to provide London's state primary children with free school meals, launching my new £12 million Green Roots Fund to support communities to protect and restore nature, and there's more to come. I look forward to building on my positive record since being elected in 2016 and to continue to work closely with this Labour government to build a fairer, safer, greener and more prosperous London for everyone.
OK, I'm going to help the audience out here because you didn't answer the question at all. The actual question was, which of your manifesto pledges can you no longer deliver following the government's spending review? As you can see, everybody in the audience and everybody watching at home, you didn't answer the question. So this is a really simple question. You mentioned the ULEZ expansion numerous times during the mayoralty, I know. And I want you to tell me now, are you completely confident that all the signage in the expanded ULEZ zone is legally sound?
Well, we often have examples of non-TfL personnel putting up signs which is not sound, and so the signage that TfL puts up is sound. There have been some errors made by TfL in the past where some of the signage has been just outside the parameters of London, and so there is always checks being done on any signage to make sure it's within the parameters of what should be allowed. And I'm confident in the briefing I've received that at the moment the signage is sound, but it's kept under review because human error often happens in these sorts of cases rather than anything more pernicious than that. So if there have been errors made by human beings, we'll rectify that.
OK, so the answer is yes, you think it is sound. Fine. In your manifesto, you committed to making London as safer, which is a joke. But if you were given even more, as you have given even more taxpayers' money this year to Notting Hill Carnival, I assume then that you must be confident that every single officer policing this will be safe.
We're in danger, Chair, which is often the case, we're talking at cross purposes. The issue in relation to the concerns raised by the independent review into Carnival wasn't about police officer safety, it was about crowd safety, because of the numbers of people going to Carnival being more than what the pavements can withstand, but also lack of stewarding from those who organise the Carnival. So one of the things we've done from City Hall is working with the two excellent local authorities who support Carnival, is support the Carnival organisers to have additional stewards to do with issues of, inverted commas, crushing. The issues raised aren't to do with police officer safety, which is a really important issue. It's more to do with public safety as a consequence of the Carnival.
Well, I think given what we know about the Carnival, given that the Commissioner has said that he is worried that this is a massive crushing event, I'm amazed you are not more concerned about the numerous police officers that have to go, as opposed to people that choose to go. I would be very worried about those police officers. Thank you, Chair.
I'm unclear, Chair, whether the member's asking me to cancel Carnival.
Sorry?
If the member's asking me to cancel Carnival, I can't cancel Carnival. That might be the Conservative policy. It's not my policy. I've not got the powers to do so.
OK. Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr Mayor. I just want to pick up on a previous exchange we had about the William Barefoot Drive police base that sits on the border of my Assembly Member DeVal's constituency. Following that exchange, I presented a petition from two local councillors in the area, signed by over 1,600 people, calling for the base to be saved from closure. And last week, those councillors were told that the base would now be remaining open, which is great news. So, following that decision to U-turn on the closure, as the base sits on the boundary of Greenwich and Bromley, I'd like to ask if it is possible for that base to be shared with Bromley so that we can increase the neighbourhood policing in places like Nottingham and Chislehurst.
Well, can I thank the member for bringing this to my attention at the last occasion when he did so and stuff? Can I take this away because I haven't got the details and stuff? I'm more than happy always to listen to reasonable requests from members who know their patch far better than colleagues in New Scotland Yard or City Hall do. So can I take that away and get back to the member?
Thank you for that, Mr Mayor. And continuing on the theme of neighbourhood policing, which of course was mentioned in your manifesto, a particular issue across outer London, particularly in Bexley and Bromley, is increasing car thefts in the area. In March of this year, the RAC published a list of the top 10 hotspots across the UK for car theft, and of that 10, London featured on 7 of the 10 pieces on the list. Can I ask what actions you're looking at with the Met Police in order to help tackle this issue?
Yeah, can I thank you for his question again? We've had a particular issue in Outer London in terms of this particular crime, and we've had examples of really good working between the Met Police Service and councils. Redbridge is the one that springs to mind because I know of the great work that was done there to address this issue, which is it's a huge misery and nuisance if you have your car stolen and all your personal possessions inside and so forth. And so I'm more than happy to ask the relevant BCU to make sure lessons are being learned from other successful BCUs where there have been successful operations. Without breaching confidences, a lot of it is covert, a lot of it is markings, a lot of it is using council CCTVs, a lot of it is, frankly speaking, making sure that bad people know that in this particular area they'd be foolish to try and steal a car. So can I take that away, Chair? Because one of the things we do try and do every week is the borough commanders share best practice, and if it's becoming a big issue in Bexley and Bromley again, let me take that away. And also I'll ask the police chair to look at the list he mentioned. I'm not aware of that, just to make sure those boroughs and that top 10 list you mentioned are getting the advice, assistance and resources to address this crime.
Perfect. Thank you for those answers, Mr Mayor. And then finally, switching over to Transport for London. Are you and Transport for London confident that every user of the nominee pass is entitled to be using one?
Well, this is a long-standing arrangement going back, I think, 25 years in relation to nominee passes. I mean, clearly, I couldn't guarantee that every single person given a nominee pass is using it properly, just like I couldn't guarantee every member of the Assembly who gets any privileges uses it properly, or indeed my staff. And so you'd hope there are checks in place to make sure things are used properly and so forth. But if he wants me to do so, I can ask the team at TfL if there are any particular issues he's got or concerns he's got or individuals he knows, if he could confidentially let my office know. I'm more than happy to pass it on to TfL and make sure that that information is protected from the sources and inquiries can be made.
Assembly Member Giorgio.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Mayor, recently your Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime visited Labour-run Enfield, and over the last year there's been a 35% increase in theft, a 119% increase in shoplifting, a 39% increase in drug supply offences, a 21% increase in gun crime, and a 60% increase in theft of mobile phones in Enfield. Given the woeful government settlement for the Met Police this year, which of these numbers are you most proud of?
Well, it's important that I unpack a lot of that question because you mentioned towards the end, his words, not mine, a woeful settlement from the government. So let me talk with the settlement first. So in the year 25-26, we received from the government an increase of more than 30% in the amount of money we receive as a national and international capital C. That's the tune of £63 million, £64 million. That's the first part of the settlement. The second part of the settlement is the government core grant for 25-26 was £280 million. That's more in cash terms than the previous 14 years put together. And so that shows the difference just 1 year's made in terms of this government. We need more because we've had 14 years of massive cuts from core grant from the central government to the tune of £1.1 billion. That's a third of core grant funding. So what we've done from City Hall is increase resources we give to police in London. We haven't increased City Hall funding by 5%. We've increased it by 105%. Really important to tell. So we're investing what we can, but the Met Police is still woefully under-resourced. In relation to crime, one of the things we know from the data is 0.75% of London makes up a big proportion of knife crime, theft from person, and antisocial behaviour. And that's one of the reasons why this summer there'll be a target on the 32 parts of London where there's the highest crime, and that includes, I'm afraid, Enfield as well. They'll be getting the additional resources this summer as well. And Matt Dukes, the Deputy Commissioner, was in Enfield with the Deputy Mayor to talk to the local team about some of the difference that should make this summer.
Thank you very much for that response, Mr Mayor. But in reality, the numbers that I've read out to you in my question show that the streets of Enfield are becoming lawless, to which puts all of us at risk as individuals as well as businesses. So I'll ask you once again, which of those significant increases in crime under your watch are you most proud of?
So what we've seen is a reduction from 2016 up until now in a number of areas of crime. So, for example, serious youth violence started going in 2012. We've seen a reduction in homicides, a reduction in young people injured with a knife, a reduction in burglaries, a reduction in lethal barrel discharge. Over the last 12 months, a reduction in personal robbery. We're seeing a reduction in personal theft. But we do know a small number of areas are responsible for a big number of the crime and the misery individuals suffer. And that's one of the reasons why we've announced this blitz this summer on 32, inverted commas, hotspots across our city, and that includes parts of Enfield.
I'll leave it there, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Morning. So in your manifesto, you promised a growth plan which would include hospitality, which is an important part of London's economy. In fact, last year you had a press release about how important it was and how brilliantly it had recovered from the pandemic. Obviously, that was when we still had a Conservative government. Under the Labour government, the national insurance increase is a hammer blow to hospitality and other low-paid industries or industries with low-paid staff. What steps have you taken to lobby Labour to correct their damaging national insurance increase?
Well, it's important to look at the complete picture and to ask the question why there's been an increase in national insurance contributions from employers, and it's because of the inheritance from the government that he proudly supported. So the government's got to address the issue of the huge deficit they've inherited, and the two ways to do that is to reduce expenditure, basically speaking, or to increase revenues, and that includes finding additional ways to raise revenues. We've seen over the last 2 weeks concern about some of the measures to reduce expenditure with concerns around welfare benefits, and you're articulating some concern around the increase in national insurance contribution. I'm not going to pretend that that's not been. I'm not going to pretend that it's been easy for the businesses he's referring to, because he's right. If you're particularly a small business, it's quite difficult to add to your national insurance burden that you've got to pay, and I know how difficult those businesses are finding it. What we're trying to do from City Hall with the powers we have is to support them by making sure they've got more customers and they do better to address the issue of the additional overhead that they've got to endure. That's one of the reasons why I'm really proud of the plans we've got this summer to help the hospitality sector, alfresco dining, some of the events taking place during this summer, because I recognise the challenges you articulate.
UK Hospitality say that since the budget, the sector has lost 69,000 jobs. Many of those will be in London. It's a huge part of the London economy. They point out that a staff member on £25,000 a year has been hit twice as hard as someone on £150,000 a year, such as yourself. It's just a badly designed tax rise. Forget the reasons for it. It's not a debate about that. That tax rise is badly designed and hits low-paid people worse. Why aren't you lobbying the government to reverse it?
Because I recognise, from personal experience, the consequences of a poor inheritance. And what the government's seeking to do is a challenge that I recognise, which is try and fill a black hole. And so, as I said to you, there are two ways they can do it. If the members suggesting other forms of tax-raising powers, like a wealth tax, I'm sure he'll find colleagues on the Assembly who may agree with him. I recognise the challenges of the wealth tax as well, but we know there are consequences of any additional tax raising provision from the government. I'm sure the Chancellor will be listening to the representations he makes. The Chancellor was with me on a visit to a hospitality venue in London recently, and so she knows the contribution they make towards our city. One of the reasons why I suspect the government is so keen to devolve additional powers to us, whether it's licensing, whether it's provision around Oxford Street or other issues, is because they recognise that we can support the national economy more if we get growth in London.
You refuse to challenge Labour's badly designed jobs tax. Institute of Chartered Accountants has this week published their business confidence monitor, came out yesterday. Quote, April's increase in national insurance contributions resulted in concerns about tax burden reaching unprecedented levels. This is among businesses in London. Why aren't you challenging the Labour government's badly designed and badly targeted national insurance increase?
I mean, the biggest reason all these businesses are struggling is because of a policy that he didn't once criticise, which all these organisations were against, which is the hard Brexit. And so we know a bigger factor affecting hospitality, a bigger factor affecting these businesses is the hard Brexit, which is why I welcome the approach taken this week with closer alignment with our closest allies, France, and closer alignment with the EU, as well as trade deals with the EU, with India and USA, which will support those sectors a lot.
I mean, that's just false. From the ICA survey, it says the tax burden remained the greatest growing challenge cited by businesses in the second quarter of 2025. I think what's striking is that you're very willing to challenge the Labour government when it comes to benefits, but you're not willing to challenge the Labour government over people who want to work, who are losing their jobs, people who are looking for jobs that no longer exist because of the NI. Do you not think that speaks volumes about your priorities?
Well, look, I'm somebody who's incredibly proud to be a pro-business mayor. I spent yesterday evening with some of London's finest businesses, a Business London event, then afterwards with some leading businesses across our city who do a huge amount to support the national economy. I understand the challenges businesses are facing in relation to the prevailing headwinds, and I'll do what I can to support them with the powers that I have.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't involve disagreeing with the government's stupid and regressive tax increases. I'll leave it there, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And you referred to poor inheritance, but one of those areas that the government did inherit that was in a mess was the NHS, which the national insurance rise is contributing towards. And you spoke about the fact about having to make difficult decisions, but also it's important that you have the funds to pay for services and balancing your budgets. Money raised through this change has been vital in providing the additional funding for the NHS. And since the election, NHS investment has risen by £29 billion a year, helping deliver over 3 million extra appointments and bringing waiting times to a 5-year low. They're going down every month. Now think about the Londoners that are waiting or have been waiting on those waiting lists, with 15% of Londoners living with long-term health conditions. How is this helping to reduce inequalities in our city?
Well, one of the big issues, anybody who's employed people in the private sector or meets with businesses regularly, is the issue of productivity. It's really difficult to be productive when members of your team are off because they're unwell, physically or mentally unwell, waiting for an appointment, waiting to be diagnosed, waiting for treatment. So it's really important to recognise the consequence of 14 years of austerity, whether it's policing, whether it's the health service, whether it's lack of affordable housing, whether it's schooling. And by this investment from the government, record sums in just a year, what we're already seeing is reduced waiting lists, improved treatments, and that will not just improve the quality of life of those individuals and their families, but lead to increased productivity as well. I think the health of the economy is intrinsically linked to the health of individuals in our city, and that's why it's really important that we recognise that the inheritance met not just the massive deficit, but also lack of investment in infrastructure and in the public sector.
Thank you. And free school meals, expanding breakfast clubs to £29 billion a year for the NHS that I mentioned, but the £11.7 billion for the Affordable Homes Programme and the £100 million on homelessness prevention. This is a huge difference to what we saw with the previous government, which was frankly more of a chaotic tea party, except one of those probably has more adult supervision. Can you shed some light on how this government so far has empowered you to deliver on your manifesto pledges?
Well, the thing is, I mean, if people want to use the word woeful to describe the massive investment over the last 12 months, I'd love to see what is generous. But we are lobbying for resources which we are receiving from the government. Sometimes we will get what we want, sometimes we won't, and I won't be afraid to speak up for our city if I think we've not got the investment that we need. But just think about this £11.7 billion for housing in London over the course of the next 10 years. It gives certainty and confidence to councils, to housing associations, to developers in the private sector. On top of that, it means that we can plan for the future. Additionally, the government is saying they will give certainty around rent rises for the next 10 years, rent convergence, allow those in council and social housing to build for building safety money. And so that, but also, really importantly, it means that people have housing they can afford to live in and stay in London. Really important for our economy as well. Look, don't be surprised by this knockabout Punch and Judy stuff from the losers. It's really important that we work with the government to support our city, the businesses, the individuals, the public sector, and those Londoners who understand the London promise. You work hard, you get a helping hand, you can achieve anything.
Assembly Member Best.
Thank you, Chair. One of the main pledges that you put in your manifesto was to create more good jobs, 150,000 by 2028. Clearly, that's made all the more difficult by the Chancellor's actions, seeing the fall in UK GDP, contraction of our economy, and unemployment rising rapidly. That has been compounded in Greenwich with a potential loss of 70 jobs at the Trafalgar Tavern because of an enforcement notice from Greenwich Council for their alfresco dining. Can you confirm you've made representations to the council and support the tavern in alfresco dining?
So, just I want to be helpful to the member. I've got an answer to the question later on in Mayor's question time. I mean, I can. I'm not sure.
Or have you made representations to the tavern?
We're speaking to the council, yes.
You are speaking to the council. Thank you. Could you keep us up to date with those representations and that letter?
Chair, what I'm happy to do is to, as with the earlier question, which I'll provide a written answer to, can I share with her the answer I was going to read out to save her time, and she can then come back to me if there's any additional stuff she wants me to do.
Thank you. I actually really appreciate that. Thanks.
Can I just intervene here? Look, manifesto pledges, I'm being very tolerant and stretching that. I think that was very close to the wind on that. If you're planning to do any more of those, then I don't really want to exercise ruling out those issues. So think carefully in
Chair,
terms
you're
of...
pointing over at this side. I actually spoke about a manifesto pledge. No. Assemblymember Harani didn't even mention one. He talked about the NHS. So I think you need to point over that side too.
Well, actually bringing questions up is in order. That's what they did. In terms of bringing them in order, what you're doing is trying to stretch it a bit too far. So I'm just watching. I'm just giving a friendly indication. I'm just giving a friendly indication to all Assembly members. I'll give a friendly indication to all Assembly members. I can look where I want to look.
Chair, I specifically mentioned his manifesto, and the part I referred to is on page 55. I specifically mentioned it. I don't know why you're looking at me.
I'm just giving you some friendly advice.
I think you're giving me biased advice, Chair.
But let's see where it goes. That's what I'm saying. Right. OK, let's bring in Assemblymember Bakari.
This is linked to Assemblymember Hall's question previously. The Liberal Democrats are actually thrilled that funding will be provided to the Carnival this year, but we are worried about its future. Can you guarantee funding every year for Carnival on the streets of Notting Hill?
No.
OK, Assemblymember Boff.
In your manifesto, you claim to be the most pro-business mayor ever, as well as supporting small businesses. During the summer weekends, only a few years back, Northcote Road was closed to traffic, which allowed alfresco dining to take place. It was a huge boost for local businesses and received the overwhelming support of local residents. The council now claim that costs prevent them from doing this again. Will you help them cover these costs and help rejuvenate this popular scheme?
Well, Chair, again, I'll speak to the member as well. I've got an answer to his question later on, it's question 18, so, I mean...
Well,
I want to be
it's
helpful.
Going to be a long answer. I'll tell you what. What I will ask is, you are supporting schemes in Brixton, Leighton and Shoreditch for alfresco dining. Would you write to Wandsworth Council and ask why this oven-ready scheme does not feature in that list of alfresco dining destinations?
Chair, I'm trying to be helpful. I don't want to eat up the time, but my answer that I would have given addresses that, so I can send him it in writing if he wants to save time, or I can answer it now.
I would very much appreciate you sending me that so we can save some time.
And again, Chair, if the member wants to follow it up with me afterwards, I'm more than happy to do so.
I certainly shall. Thank you very much.
And just to help Assembly members and guidance of how to ask questions, the link was made back to the manifesto. Right, let's move on. So, Assembly Member, where I need some help.
Assembly Member Prince.
Prince. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, in your manifesto, you talk about transport and also how well you've done on Elizabeth Line and Northern Line. You have, during the campaign, also mentioned about the Piccadilly Line. And as we heard from the Commissioner last week, there are issues with that. Could you actually enlarge on that? It looks very much like there's a fundamental problem with this new Piccadilly train that we have.
I will answer the question, but just say, I think the dangers of this sort of question is I've not got the briefing to answer it, so I want to be helpful to you. And so the joy of the GLA Act and the way previously it's been done 25 years is you ask a question, I get a brief and I can answer the question, we're all illuminated and the public sees scrutiny and stuff. So I'll answer the question though, so I've not got the answer to so it's not uncommon.
You also do know, Mayor,
it's not uncommon.
Mayor, that on occasion I give you an additional briefing if it's a matter of...
I say in a respectful way. Yeah. Question is about a manifesto. I've actually got a proper manifesto on other candidates. So you can ask anything on a question about a manifesto. Don't be surprised if I can't answer it, because the lack of notice means I've not got the briefing. And so the short answer is we often order trains. I've been the mayor for 9 years, order trains for the Elizabeth line, for the DLR, for the trams, for the PIC line. It's not uncommon for once the first train arrives that we notice issues that some people call teething problems, but they're issues that weren't foreseen when they were tested at factory off-site. And so that's what's happened with the PIC line. The first train is built, issues have arisen, which means rather than them building another 35 trains that are also faulty, they try and finesse and fix the problems of the first train. And that leads to the first train, when it's been tested on the lines, being delayed, but we make up the time. So the actual end point for all the trains coming to the PIC line, hopefully we will keep, but the first train may be delayed, if that makes sense.
So will you share with us what these issues are?
I think the Commissioner did offer a briefing to colleagues. I'm more than happy to follow that up with colleagues. What the Commissioner won't be able to do is share sensitive stuff, because there could be, I'm speaking generally, there can often be claims against the provider for not, and so. But I'm more than happy for TfL to organise that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Assembly Member Baker.
Thank you. So to reassure the Chair, this is about manifesto commitments. Apologies to the Mayor, it's not something that you knew you were going to be asked about. So in your manifesto last year, you highlighted the importance of e-bike and wider micromobility regulation and committed to lobby for powers to be able to regulate that. And we also in the Assembly passed a motion in November last year asking you to reinforcing that, to use the devolution bill to give local powers to regulate micromobility markets. So yesterday the devolution bill was published. It looks like those powers are intended to be given. So are you able to let us know at this early stage what impact you think the changes will be able to make, so that we can ensure that they provide micromobility provide the services that many enjoy, but without causing a nuisance, for instance, that e-bikes currently are to many on the streets of London?
It's a really important point in relation to, look, on the positive side of having e-bikes, e-scooters is fantastic in terms of people can get out and about without going to the docks. The negative side is the clutter left on the pavement, which causes a real problem, and the lack of regulations. So we've been lobbying on this since 2017. No luck with the previous government. I want to give credit to Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, who has moved swiftly to address this issue. So you're right, the devolution bill does contain provision for mayors across the country to be given powers of regulation. So TfL are working with the DfT to make sure the regulation is fit for purpose. She'll be working, she's raised with me the frustration of councils often. Council A may have a policy with the company, Council B doesn't. And if you're a punter, particularly visually impaired, you can have a different experience depending which borough you're in. So we are going to work closely with DfT to get this right, and speak to other colleagues around the country, because the regulatory framework for the licensing is so important. And this is a good example of City Hall working with the new government to bring about tangible benefits for residents she cares about.
Thanks very much. Back to you, Chair.
Right, let's move on to the next question on counter-terrorism approach, in the name of Assembly Member Ahmed.
Thank you for this question. I was humbled to attend, I know she was there as well, the 20th anniversary commemorations of the 7/7 terror attacks earlier this week. The attacks shook our city. 7th of July is a day that will never be forgotten, and we'll continue to remember the 52 people whose lives were cut short, alongside more than 700 people who were injured by these cowardly acts of hatred. We also continue to be grateful to those who ran towards danger on that day, from emergency service personnel to transport workers and members of the public who showed incredible courage and compassion by putting their own safety at risk to help those in need. Their bravery and selflessness must never be forgotten. Since then, terrorists have continued to target the capital, and the threat remains substantial. We must not be complacent. After every single tragic terrorist incident, important lessons have been learned and improvements made. This was the same after July the 7th attacks as it was after the spate of awful attacks in 2017. London's response to terrorism has been shaped by this learning and is stronger because of it. We must keep improving, though, and I'll continue to partner with London's stakeholders to ensure that we are doing everything we can to keep people safe. I've previously commissioned 2 separate independent reviews into London's preparedness to respond to a major terrorist incident, which was delivered by Lord Toby Harris. Pleasingly, the second review found that London was significantly better placed to respond to an attack than we had been previously. But there can be no complacency, and the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime is overseeing the response to the 294 recommendations from the second review. To date, 156 recommendations have been closed, 71 are being reviewed for closure, and 67 have ongoing lines of inquiry. MOPEC continue to work with each of the responsible bodies to make London a safer city. Finally, 2 decades on, it's important to reiterate the message to those that wish to spread division and sow hatred. You will never win. London's determination to stand together is stronger than ever. We will always choose hope over hate and over fear, as we strive to build a safer London for everyone.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for speaking about the ceremony at St Paul's, which was certainly one of the most moving events I have been at since I was elected into this role. And also acknowledging that London will not be divided by hate. Mr Mayor, how confident are you that London's transport network is adequately protected against the risk of a similar attack in 2025?
It's a good question, but actually highlights the challenges we have. And the way I describe this, and it's been described to me, I use much more plain English, is just like bad people evolve and find new ways to harm us, we've got to evolve and find new ways to keep us safe. So if you go back to 2005, 3 tube lines were bombed and 1 bus on Tavistock Square. You fast forward to 2017, you saw attacks on Westminster Bridge, on London Bridge, and outside the mosque in the Finsbury Park area. Just to give her an idea, and I'm not breaching confidences in sharing this information, I think 43 attacks at a late stage have been stopped. She'll be aware of the Manchester Arena attack. So the point I'm making is public transport is one potential target for terrorists, but there are other targets as well. That's why she'll see, for example, the hostile vehicle mitigation across our city. She'll see in the London Plan designs in relation to how we design shopping centres. So I'm confident as much as we can be around TfL, and we're continuing to evolve and find new ways, but it relies upon us staying ahead of the terrorists, and that means all of us being vigilant. If you see something that's suspicious, please report it. Our staff are trained, we work with police and partners, we speak to colleagues in New York and Paris and Brussels and other parts of the world to make sure we're learning from each other as well.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And very quickly, how are you working with the Met and national agencies to monitor and prevent radicalisation in London?
So another good question. So we run a London Contest Board chaired by the Deputy Mayor, and on that are various blue light services, Home Office, probation and prisons, Department for Education, TfL and many others. And we work on a 4-pronged strategy, protect, prepare, pursue and prevent. She's right, we've got to stop people being radicalised in the first place. So that means working with councils, schools and so forth. And it's difficult, but it's something we've got to do.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Assembly Member Arani.
Thank you, Chair, and I echo your words on the commemoration service at St Paul's Cathedral. It was incredibly moving and fitting. The government funding for the Metropolitan Police, if we go back to 2005, has dropped from 80% to 75% now. How has that deliberate policy from the previous government of, quite frankly, defunding the police made us less safe?
Well, I think we've got to recognise that countering terrorism is a whole policing approach. It's actually a whole society approach. And so even if you keep counter-terror policing funding stable, if you reduce funding for the rest of policing, it has an impact on counter-terror policing, it has an impact on our safety. I'll give you an example. It's the neighbourhood Bobby on the beat who notices if there's fertiliser, because of good intelligence with the community, good links, fertiliser has been bought by somebody that could be used for a bomb. That is not counter-terror policing, that is good neighbourhood Bobbies on the beat having the relationship with residents to report that. So I am concerned, but more importantly, the Commissioner is concerned about us being not as safe as we can be because of 14 years of austerity. And that's why both of us have been vocal publicly about our concerns around funding going forward, because you can't make up for a third of our core funding being lost unless you inject significantly more amounts of money in the police service.
Thank you. And you already spoke about the Capital Cities grant which London receives to compensate for the additional policing requirements of our wonderful capital city and the extra £63 million that were received. Are you speaking with the Chancellor and the Government to ensure that the level of grant continues or matches in future the cost of policing in London?
Yeah, a really good point that he raises. So I think previous governments have recognised, because we are a global city, there's additional burdens on policing. Terrorism is one. I say in a respectful way, London is more likely to be a target from terrorists than other places across the country. Think about sporting events, Troop in the Colour, state visits and so forth. That's a bigger burden on policing in London. So I welcome and I'm really grateful for the huge increase we received last year in NIC funding, National International Capital Cities grant from this government, a big increase of more than 30%. We need that to carry on going forward, because there are additional burdens on the police, and the commissioners try to explain this, not just to the government, but to the public as well, because we've got to recognise if we're going to make more progress, we need more support. Yes, in prevention, but also in enforcement as well.
Assembly Member Desai.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, recently 5 people were convicted on serious arson charges. They were linked to the Russian Wagner Group. How worried are you about the role of foreign actors such as Russia and Iran in terrorist and violent activities in London, and also the role of social media accounts like Telegram?
So, Chair, I've got to be very careful in our answers, because I get briefing, obviously, and I don't want to in any way inadvertently breach the briefing that I've received, but it's the public domain what the members referred to in terms of rogue states is the phrase used, and actors from those rogue states hostile to our city, our country, our way of life. Since I've been mayor, which is 9 years, it's never been as stark as it is now in terms of the concerns the police have. And that's one of the reasons why Senator Hirani and Senator Ahmed's questions around this issue are so important. Yes, the police have done a great job catching the perpetrators. Justice has been done. But there are people planning all the time. And that's why it's really important for us to be vigilant.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, thank you for the help you're giving to East Ham and Barking town centres. Thank you. Thank you,
Chair. Can I just give, sorry, at the end of that questioning, can I just welcome George Tomlinson Primary School? I think they were the ones who just arrived into the room. So welcome to our meeting. And I think we have a group of young students from Harrow in the audience. Are they here? There they are. Welcome to our meeting. Okay, let's get back to our questioning. Our next question is in the name of Assembly Member Polanski. It concerns contaminated land in London.
I think we just reduced the average age of this chamber by like 40 years. Can I thank the member for his really important question? The Launders Lane site has been having a negative impact on local residents for far too long. I welcome the clarity of the court's ruling and ultimately hope to see the site cleaned up and local air quality improved. Can also thank through him the Clean the Air in Havering team for campaigning and the court case as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the powers to address the cause of the fires, which would require the removal or remediation of waste on the site. This is the responsibility of Havering Borough Council, the Environment Agency and the landowners. However, I will continue to work with those responsible for the land as they look to reach a long-term solution. My office has been working with the London Fire Brigades to develop an agreement with the landowner and borough to improve safety for emergency responders, reduce fires and minimise the impact on the local community. In terms of the broader question about development on contaminated land or land remediation, unfortunately I have no relevant responsibilities or enforcement powers under the GLA Act. This limitation of my powers means my London plan can only focus on encouraging the remediation of contaminated land in opportunity areas. However, I have previously published a good practice note on contaminated land, setting out roles and responsibilities and advice for local authorities, as it is for them to assess the suitability of a site and any mitigation or remediation proposals. Land contamination falls within the remit of environmental health regime rather than planning, and the Environment Agency currently provides extensive guidance, including risk assessment, options appraisal and remediation and verification. More broadly, I'll do what I can with the powers that I have to tackle pollution across London. That's why I expanded the ULEZ to cover every borough and continue to work hard to improve London's toxic air. However, I recognise there is more to do to protect the health of Londoners, and I continue to deliver further measures to reduce the impact of air pollution. This includes the School Filters Programme, which is installing air quality filters into over 200 schools across London, which are located in areas of poor air quality and higher deprivation. Last year, I also launched air quality alerts that directly notify clinicians in GP practices and emergency departments located in London about forecasted high and very high pollution episodes. This will help recipients increase their patients' awareness about the health impacts of air pollution and better support those at greater risk.
Thank you. As always, want to thank you for the work that you're doing on pollution, whether that be air or the land and indeed water. Thank you also for the letter I received yesterday supporting the motion on Zane's Law. Really positive to see you support those calls. You'll know about Zane's Law. Zane was an 8-year-old boy who died from hydrogen cyanide poisoning from a contaminated landfill site. His father was paralysed. He's in the gallery today, Kai, and he's worked extensively to find justice for Zane and to raise the salience of this issue and to make sure it's in the national conversation. Could I ask you first if you commit to having a meeting with Kai so he can talk to you about this directly?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. Can I just welcome him to Mayor's question time and just say again how sorry I am about the tragic loss of his son's life, and I'm more than happy to meet with him and have you present as well if you want to in relation to that as well.
I'll check with Kai, but I'm happy either way. Thank you very much. Second, on clean air in Havering, thank you for your words celebrating that judgment. Also in the audience is Ruth Kettle Frisby, who was one of the founders of the campaign and brought the case. Talking to her just this morning, she was talking about how the site is still constantly on fire. Very often there's people just with video phones filming the fire and their embers are coming towards them. This is obviously a real issue for the fire brigade as well, who we do have direct responsibility for. What work are you doing to make sure that the air pollution monitors are not just measuring kind of annual averages, but actually are measuring dosages, so these kind of short peaks of high intensity, because this is what is causing either loss of life or even just degradation of health?
Well, can I also just thank the team for bringing the case as well. I read the judgment, which was interesting because what the court said, which is fascinating, was it's not just the soil samples that matters in terms of assessing land contaminated, but also the smoke and the quality or lack thereof of the smoke that comes from the site, which I think is really important in terms of the question he asked about the monitors, because how else do you know in terms of the land being contaminated and the consequences? He'll be aware we have now in London the biggest, the largest number of air quality monitors of any global city in the world, and there's got to be real-time monitoring. And so if there are any particular issues, and we work closely with the coalition, if there are any particular issues, and they've been regularly with the Deputy Mayor as well, if there are any issues in relation to the information from those monitors, we're more than happy to look at that. As you know, it's done independently. Yeah. But we can more than happy speak to colleagues about making sure that that information is useful, which is what the purpose is. It's not simply to record for the sake of recording, but it's useful in real time.
Absolutely. I think it's also about the quality of the monitors and also some of them having been removed.
On that point, a lot of them have been replaced recently because of that issue. They get data. Technology moves on, and also maintenance is an issue as well. But if there, again, any issues in relation to quality of data because of poor monitors, please let us know.
Excellent. And so the other issue here too is around the council. So making sure that the site is actually cleaned. Would you write to the council or put pressure on the council, supportive pressure, to say this site needs cleaning up?
I'm always happy and willing and able to criticise councils. As you know, it's sometimes business and sometimes pleasure. But to give credit to this council, I mean, since 2022, we've seen a sea change in the attitude of the council. And by the way, it's not a Labour council, so I'm not, there's no political issues here. So we're already in a working group with the council, technical working group and a high-level working group. The council have said, we've been in touch with them, that they were in any event reviewing the issue of that land. The court case is really important, but I'm more than happy if there's more things we can be doing. Bearing in mind we've got no powers, it really is a conversation, and they're much more amenable post-2022 than the previous lot to look into this.
Thank you. A letter would be great, but I'm out of time for now. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
to the next question, which is on the Disability Equality Champion in the name of Assembly Member Bakari.
Thanks for the question. My Deputy Mayor for Communities and Social Justice, Dr Debbie Weeks-Bernard, leads our work to support disabled Londoners. Her role includes working closely with deaf and disabled Londoners and organisations who represent them to ensure their voices are heard and their experiences and needs are central to shaping the work we do at the GLA. As part of her work, Dr Debbie Weeks-Bernard convenes the Deaf and Disabled People's Organisations Forum, which is co-created with Inclusion London and a wide range of deaf and disabled people's organisations. That forum meets regularly with other ad hoc discussions on specific issues taking place as needed. It shapes the breadth of the GLA's work, including by helping deaf and disabled people's organisations to scrutinise our work. The priorities for the forum and specific topics for discussions are co-developed and agreed with Inclusion London and deaf and disabled people's organisations, ensuring that the discussions and the actions taken as a result reflect their priorities. For example, recent discussions with members of the forum have been central to ensuring that my response to the government's Pathways to Work Green Paper was directly shaped by the experiences of deaf and disabled Londoners. The Disabled Londoners Action Plan, due to be published later this year, is being co-produced with deaf and disabled Londoners and the organisations that support them. The plan will set out actions across a range of different areas of the GLA's work, including employment, housing, access to advice and support organisations, and transport, to tackle the challenges faced by deaf and disabled Londoners. I've also asked Dr Debbie Weeks-Bernard to develop a proposal on how the existing disability forums and advisory groups across the GLA, LFB, TfL and the Met Police can work together to develop and share best practice, as I committed to in my manifesto. This work will be launched soon. I continue to believe that the most effective way to ensure the interests of deaf and disabled people are centred within our decision-making is by having a lead advocate in City Hall with the status of a Deputy Mayor. The Deputy Mayor for Communities and Social Justice's brief deliberately considers the intersectionality of inequality in our city. The GLA Equalities team also includes officers who lead in disability and who engage directly with London's deaf and disabled communities. The GLA People team has also appointed 2 disability workforce advisors. I am incredibly grateful to London's deaf and disabled people's organisations for all they do.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm disappointed that you don't agree that we need to have a disability champion. I know that you are aware of the fact that we've had 2 motions here. The London Assembly has passed where we've supported the need for a disability champion. And I'm off script now because I'm just speaking from my heart here. I know that it's something that's been supported cross-party. Disability groups have all been asking you for this. I'm pleased that there's an action plan in place. That was part of the motion that was unanimously passed here in the London Assembly. That was one of their asks. But having somebody with lived experience in a role here in the London Assembly would be groundbreaking, would be an amazing role model for the rest of the world to follow. And I'm pleased that, yes, we've got an action plan that's being co-produced, but why can't we have co-production across the GLA for disabled voices to be heard? There are millions of disabled Londoners who feel completely, and in the words of the Deputy Prime Minister, disheartened and bruised right now because of welfare cuts. And I'm very pleased that you, Mr Mayor, have been standing up for the disabled Londoners and also people across the country when you have gone up to the government and said it's not good enough that these cuts are happening across our city and across this country. And I was hoping for a very positive movement from you, a moment that you could have made a legacy for your time as mayor, a moment that would have made a real difference to disabled Londoners who feel scapegoated, who feel unheard, who feel completely abandoned, incredibly worried and anxious about their future. They really wanted to have a moment here, this moment here today, where you'd have said yes. And it would have been a chance for you to show leadership, that you've listened, that you've acted, that you're willing to rebuild the trust that we need to build between us and disabled Londoners. And having somebody with lived experience at the heart of City Hall would have been pushing for better. And I totally agree the Deputy Mayor's done a fantastic job, but it's something that I think would be a real compliment to her and her job to make sure that disabled Londoners have somebody who's completely dedicated to them, that there is full engagement with disabled Londoners, making sure that there is somebody who actually understands their lived experience. And we have commissioners and champions for other areas like walking and cycling. We have had them for the nighttime economy. This was a chance to make history today. And I'm just disappointed that 1 in 4 Londoners who are living in inaccessible homes, a third of our stations are still without step-free access. There's so much more we could be doing. And today could have been that moment for you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm somebody who believes we should embed equality and anti-discrimination in all we do, which is why, particularly when there's intersectionality, we've got a Deputy Mayor for the first time doing just that. If you follow the logic of what the member is saying, can I just be clear, is she in favour of an anti-Islamophobia equality champion?
No, I'm talking about a disability equality champion here.
Well, there's a protected characteristics issue here, which is I don't believe
I'd rather we just focused on the question. I mean, I'm going to keep the door open. I'm going to keep asking for this. I'm not going to give up. I know that lots of Assembly members here agree with me, and I'm not making this a criticism of you. I just think that we could have worked together and collaborated, and we could have made, we could all together made this happen, and I'm pleased that you're working so hard for the disabled community. This could have been a moment we could have made a real difference for them, and they could have been really heard. This is what they wanted. Inclusion London have been working really hard on this.
Okay, do you wish to come back?
We can leave it there. It's fine. Yeah.
It's just, I'm not sure if the member wants me to come back. It's just
Okay, fine. Let's move on then. Next question in the name of Assembly Member Prince is on TfL safety.
I thank the member for his question. I'm quite clear. Keeping people safe must be the primary consideration in the running of London's transport network. While TfL safety performance is generally good, there is always more to do, which is why TfL continuously reviews its performance to identify opportunities to further improve safety for passengers and Londoners. Learning from incidents is central to this work. Safety incidents are captured within TfL's reporting systems, and wherever possible, contributory factors and root causes are identified. This dataset provides an important resource for understanding current and emerging safety measures and ensuring that TfL develops plans to respond. This performance information is regularly reviewed and scrutinised, as well as being reported publicly. For the most serious incidents that occur on the network, TfL and its suppliers will conduct a detailed formal investigation. This involves an extensive review of evidence, interviews and input from trade unions and other colleagues to establish exactly what has happened in order to identify the actions needed to prevent a reoccurrence of said incident. TfL also works closely with its regulatory bodies and organisations such as the Rail Accident Investigation Branch to understand fully the cause of serious incidents and recommendations for future prevention. Part of this process includes the widespread sharing of lessons learned, as well as reviewing previous similar incidents. Action resulting from these investigations are tracked and monitored by TfL's chief officers. As part of its ongoing safety improvements, TfL has governance in place to specifically review the effectiveness of actions taken in response to incidents and to drive further improvements where needed. This continuous cycle of improvement is central to good safety management and drives the significant steps TfL is taking to continue to improve safety across the network. TfL remains committed to bus safety with enhanced bus design, new technology, better training and improvements to bus stations. On rail modes, TfL is prioritising action to tackle risk at the gap between train and platform, trialling new technologies alongside engineering interventions. TfL continues to work on the measures most effective at reducing risk on our roads, from encouraging 20 miles per hour schemes, which reduce the number of killed or seriously injured by around a third, to building safer junctions and ensuring the highest standards for HGVs. There's no doubt any death or serious injury on TfL network or London's roads is a tragedy. TfL is working hard towards my goal to eliminate all deaths and serious injuries from London's transport network by 2041.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that very full answer. Mr. Mayor, you may recall, I hope you do, I recently wrote to you regarding a conversation I overheard between two DLR, we call them train captains, they're the people who operate the doors, who were complaining that the platform mirrors and the monitors on the DLR service that they use to watch people coming on off the trains are often dirty and out of alignment. They also complained that whilst they raised this with senior people, nothing was ever done about it. Do you agree that's a concerning state of affairs?
That's not just concerning, it's poor. Chair, what I'm happy to do is get a response to the member to give him the reassurance that actions have been taken to address the issues that he brought to our attention.
I'll accept that. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the question of brownfield land in the name of Assembly Member Boff.
I thank the member for his question. Given London's long history of development, the majority of land in the capital is brownfield land, and this includes some land within the Green Belt. Brownfield land is land that has been previously developed. In other words, it is or has been occupied by some kind of permanent structure and any associated surface infrastructure. The best estimate of brownfield land is that it comprises around 101,079 hectares, or 63% of the GLA's administrative area. This is calculated by subtracting undeveloped green belt land, metropolitan open land, designated open space, and rivers and water bodies from the GLA's total area. However, further refinement would be needed to account for private residential gardens and other green spaces. Building on this information, the question is how much of this land is developable to help meet London's housing needs. As of this February, according to the brownfield registers maintained by London's boroughs, there's only around 2,955 hectares of developable land on them in total. However, last year, my Land for London programme made a call out to boroughs, landowners and developers for information on other potential developable sites. Over 700 sites were suggested, the majority of which were brownfield. These are currently being reviewed along with other sites which have been identified by boroughs and through the Planning for London Data Hub, totaling over 8,000 sites. As a result, I'm pleased to share that around 9,500 further hectares of non-green belt land is being assessed for development potential. While this is a substantial amount, even if we build on all the available brownfield land, it will still not be enough to deliver the level of new housing Londoners need. Around 99% of London's development in recent years has been on brownfield land, and I'll continue to prioritise a brownfield land first approach in delivering new homes in London. However, given the demands for new housing in London has reached such acute levels, I've been clear that some greenfield and green belt land will also be needed for development to help deliver the new homes London needs. Changes to London's urban form will be needed. This isn't about sprawl, this is about compact, landscape-led growth in locations with good existing or future access to public transport connections, thereby making best use of both brownfield land and any greenfield land that is released.
How many homes will the brownfield that you know of are buildable on brownfield land?
Previous assessment when the previous London plan was done, I think, was 45,000 per year on brownfield.
And how up to date are your records? You've talked about suggestions, but there's no overall review of brownfield land.
Yeah, he's right. What needs to happen is a robust evidence base before the new London plan, as you're aware from previous London plans. In advance of the London plan being drafted, there's a huge amount of evidence gathered. There is currently taking place a green belt review. Some of this data will come from that. That was actually a government requirement to all regions across the country. That will help. But he's right, there needs to be robust evidence that goes into the London plan. And just the other part of the story is councils will need to know how much land they have available for development for the obvious reason. They'll be given a target to build X homes. They'll have to show how much land they have, and if there's a gap between the land they have, that's where the robust evidence comes in, the homes needed, that's another area where there could be an asking of a release of greenbelt land.
So you don't know how many homes can be built on brownfield land in London?
I think we just had this conversation. It's roughly speaking 45,000 per annum going forward.
On old data?
By definition, the London plan comes every 5 years or 10 years, so you're right, it's cyclical.
But you currently don't know how many homes can be built on brownfield land because you haven't done a review yet.
It's not difficult to do. I've given him the numbers.
Yeah.
You can extrapolate from the numbers, roughly speaking, how many homes can be built. Let's assume, for example, you've not got NIMBY assembly members and you allow taller buildings where it's possible to do so. Even with that happening, we still won't meet the housing need of our city.
So you're saying from previous plans it's a certain figure. So why do a review at all if you're that certain?
Because we've discovered from calling out, for example, the Land for London scheme, we asked people to suggest pieces of land that could be developed. Councils are looking proactively for pieces of land. And things change. A landowner may decide to release the land where previously he or she wouldn't release the land. So the London Plan, the statute requires us to write it regularly. For the good reason, things change. It's really important to review that.
Okay, and that's what I'm calling for, is a brownfield review, but you haven't done that before you've asked for a green belt review.
So there has been an assessment of the amount of brownfield site, which I've given the figures for. Before the London Plan is written.
Very rough figures, and as you say, they're being added to as we speak. When's that process going to be complete?
So as part of the drafting of the New London Plan, there will be a robust evidence base gathered, and when the London Plan is being drafted, there will be evidence base. There's then an inspectorate phase of the London Plan. Separately, there are local plans written by councils, so the data will be surfaced during that process, as it was during the drafting of the last London Plan.
I still get the impression that you don't know how much brownfield land there is, because if it's being added to, then obviously we don't have a review of brownfield land, and yet you want to review of greenbelt land. I mean, how can you say brownfield first if you don't really know how much brownfield there is?
Well, Chair, I'm happy to read the answer again, but there is 101,000 and 101,079 hectares of brownfield land.
And that data
even
comes
if every
from
single
what?
piece of land that data was built on, it won't be enough to meet London's
that
housing
data comes from
needs.
what,
The government
that
says, and we agree with it
101,000
properly,
comes from what?
that the amount of housings we need per year, homes, is 88,000
You don't
per
need to
year.
repeat.
And
You
the
don't
point
need
that
to
I've
repeat
made
the
is
question.
if we built on every brownfield site, it's about 44,000, or about
You're
half
repeating the answer, wasting my time. So I'll stop there. But it seems to me that this is obfuscation.
Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope I'm not making the Mayor's weekend peak too early with a second intervention from me. But you claimed earlier this year that only 13% of London's greenbelt is parkland or accessible space. But last month at the Environment Committee, the London Wildlife Trust and the Campaign for Rural England told us that they estimate it to actually be at least 30%. Would you like to take the opportunity to correct the record?
No, there's going to be a Greenbelt review, and that's part of the Greenbelt review is for us to work out how much of the Greenbelt is green and pleasant, how much is poorly maintained, how much is inaccessible, how much enhances biodiversity. And so that Greenbelt review will be undertaken. At the same time, some of the Greenbelt will be where it's grey. And so I'm more than happy to look at evidence from different sources, and we'll provide that to the government as we're required to do so. Separately, councils help you know from the local plans they draw up from his local authorities. They do a local plan themselves. They review the land they have as well. And he will know, particularly because he's an Outer London representative borough, there's more Greenbelt there. And their expertise will be listened to in terms of the drafting of the Greenbelt review.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Mayor. Now, you mentioned in your response to Assembly Member Boff about our parks and open spaces. And as I'm sure you're aware, that the ongoing financial challenges all of our councils are facing across London means that non-statutory service such as parks, maintaining our parks, open spaces and our rivers are now entirely grant-funded in many cases. Now, earlier this year, Thames Water was fined £122.7 million for their various failings. I wrote to the Chancellor to ask that money be kept in London and given to our local councils to help them improve the health of our waterways. Would you support that call and join the lobbying effort?
Chair, I'm sorry, I've not seen the letter, but from what he says, I'm more than happy to support that call. I'm a believer in the polluter pays principle, but also I'm a believer in local people seeing the benefits of that principle. So can I, subject to what the letter says, more than happy to.
Assembly Member Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, would you like to build on Green Park?
So this is another example of members trying to bring up the Whitewebs Park through the back door, which they've tried to do for the last
Would you like to build on Green Park?
Months. I'm quite clear, as I've said on a number of occasions, that not all green belt is green and pleasant. I recognise some green belt, some green pieces of land that people call a park is poorly maintained,
Okay,
poor
so
quality
Green Park's under threat. Would you like to build on Hyde Park?
I've also made clear that Metropolitan Open
Right,
land,
so Hyde Park's gone. Would you like to build on Kew Gardens?
I suspect when practicing in front of the mirror this morning, it sounded great.
So all right. So Green Park, Hyde Park, Kew Gardens are gone. Would you like to build on Groveland's Park?
I've had
another one gone.
6
Would you like to build on Brimfield
than
Park?
this, you know, and I remember
Another one gone.
Moots being
Would you like
better
to
than
build on
this.
Trent Park? Another one gone. Okay. Yes or no? It's really straightforward. We can start from the beginning. Green Park, yay or nay?
And what you see is the pitch going up in his voice, and it booms as well.
Because I get so
And it's like-
emotional when I see you, Mr. Mayor. Green Park, yes or no?
I mean, it must be such a joy living rent free in his head. What's he going to do in August? He'll probably be going to my Twitter, looking at my photograph and shouting
No,
on the phone.
I will miss you over the summer holidays. I'm not going to lie. But Green Park, is it staying or going?
He doesn't need to bang the desk, Chair. I can hear him. The microphones work. I've been quite clear. The parks he mentioned, all of them are Metropolitan Open land, and I've been quite clear. No one is talking about building the homes we desperately need on those wonderful parks. Many of them are royal parks, by the way. What we are talking about is building the homes that Londoners desperately need on poor quality, badly maintained, often inaccessible land. And I'm really surprised that he's never met a constituent
So is Trent Park
who
safe
needs
then?
affordable housing.
You've just said you're not going to build on all of those wonderful parks, so Trent Park is safe.
Chair, I'm not sure which part of my answer he didn't understand. Metropolitan Open land has a different...
Trent Park isn't Metropolitan Open land, so you already don't know what you're talking about. Is Trent Park safe?
And I've also been quite clear, what I'm not willing to do as somebody who operates a quasi-judicial function is to comment on pieces of land which could come before me for planning. And I'm really surprised he doesn't understand that.
Well, it would be your application. It's your department. It's TfL. So you can just say you don't want them to do it. Well, you can. Anyway, right. Thanks for that, Mr. Chairman. Very grateful. And have a wonderful summer, Mr. Mayor.
I mean, it's really difficult, Chair, when somebody's Punch and Judy to have a conversation.
At this point, I think we need to take a small... oh, sorry, one more Assembly member to come in on this point. Assembly Member Cooper, forgive me.
Thank you. I want to...
Follow that.
Oh, do you insist I join in on that level? I was kind of hoping to get back to the... I mean, this is a really important issue, Mr. Mayor. We're talking about people meeting people's housing needs, and we know that there's a housing crisis in the city. And at the same time, we've got people being both Punch and Judy, as you said. So we're being forced to look at every last piece of brownfield land. But even after the review of brownfield sites is completed, which is underway at the moment as part of the revisions to the London Plan, which is a statutory obligation, do you think there is any chance that the amount of brownfield land that's identified would actually meet Londoners' housing needs?
No, it's not. And she raises a really important point. Even theoretically, it's not the case. We know this because of the evidence. We know this because of the previous London Plan. We know this because of the local plans. We know there are NIMBYs who are against building the genuinely affordable homes we need. And then there are politicians who, you know, to data harvest, collect petitions, getting names of people, without explaining the context of a city that is growing. That's a good sign people want to move here. And we've got to address the needs of those Londoners and the aspirations they have to rent or even, dare I say, buy a home in London. Now, even if we build in every single piece of brownfield land in London, which is just not realistic, there will still be a need for additional homes to be built somewhere. They don't want us to build on car parks that aren't used. They don't want us to build tall buildings. They don't want us to build on poorly maintained, inadequate green land that's inaccessible. And so it begs the question, why is it we've got this housing crisis? Because of that sort of attitude over the last 14 years with the Conservative government and decades with our Conservative councils.
Well, I have a lot of respect for people who approach this argument with a serious attitude. But one of the other things that has emerged is, even when we are talking about building on brownfield land, the idea that it could be, 3-bedroom houses with gardens rather than looking at densification and taller buildings. Do you think it's actually a NIMBY attitude to refuse to consider buildings that are taller and could help house more people?
I think what we've got to recognise, and you raise the conundrum here. What we don't want to do is have greenbelt land released, poor quality or good quality, and what's built there are executive homes that you've got to drive to. If you're going to use that piece of land, we want to make sure a number of conditions are met. It's got to be, we want it to be accessible, good public transport connections, maximise affordable homes. That could mean high-density homes as well, really important, because that's where the viability comes in terms of those being viable for a developer working with a good council. We know, though, that a lot of this land is poorly maintained and it's inaccessible and it's not great. Now, the argument is whether it's 13% or 30%. That's the argument coming from over here. That's still a lot of land that we could build the homes that we desperately need in our city. And the problem over there is they're against everything. And that's why Londoners, I suspect, voted for me 3 times in a row.
And of course, Mr Mayor, we would be looking to maximise the brownfield sites as well as rejecting executive homes that are far from transport hubs in any greenbelt land that does come into the equation.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, she's hitting the nail on the head. We're not saying no to brownfield.
No.
We're going to accelerate even more building that brownfield land. But in addition,
some people are. Some people don't want us to build on station car parks, remember?
Well, and that's why it's really important to remind Londoners on a regular basis how we got here and who it is that can get us out of here. And how we got here is because of that sort of attitude. How we get out of this problem is because of the can-do attitude we're trying to bring to this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. These are difficult issues and we're glad that you're the Mayor of London and dealing with them. Thank you, Chair.
I think we could do with a break now. Shall we adjourn? Shall we just adjourn for 10 minutes and then come back? So look at the clock. Someone will tell me what time that is.
11:37 back.
11:37, please. Colleagues, thank you for returning to the chamber. We're now going to resume our Friday deliberations. We're now moving on to a resilience against disorder question in the name of Assembly Member Mahfouz.
Can I start by paying my condolences to the families and loved ones of Elsie Stancombe, aged 7, Bieber King, aged 6, and Alice De Silva Aguar, aged 9. The violence and racism we witnessed in the aftermath of the murder of these young girls in Stockport was truly appalling. It showed how spreading misinformation online can have devastating consequences, which is one of the reasons why I'm determined to tackle the spread of hateful ideologies and to bring communities together. The Met's Readiness to Respond programme works to mobilise pan-London resources in response to disorder and major incidents and includes mobilisation and intelligence gathering. It's taken the learnings from multiple reviews and inspections, including the HMI inspection of the police response to the disorder last summer. Preventing disorder in the first place is the key challenge. This means understanding why certain communities feel left behind and ignored. It's much wider than policing, and all public authorities must listen and take action to reduce social and economic inequality. That's why I've funded nearly £1 million to help support communities across the capital, including £600,000 from the government's Community Recovery Fund to support borough cohesive activities, and £385,000 from the National Lottery Community Fund to support a range of events at the Mayor's Community Weekend 2025. In February, I launched the Loved and Wanted campaign to promote London's values of equality and inclusion and to send a clear message of support that no matter who you are or where you're from, you're loved and wanted in this city. Over the last 5 years, I've also delivered record-breaking investment through my Shared Endeavour Fund, which funds community projects that actively challenge all forms of extremist ideologies, including online conspiracy theories and misinformation. London is the greatest city in the world, and our diversity is our strength. Throughout my mayoralty, social integration and community cohesion has formed a key part of the programmes I deliver, and I'll continue to do so to protect what's so special about this city, our diversity and our unique communities.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I think we all share those condolences for what was an absolutely, truly horrific crime, and clearly the aftermath was just in terms of making that situation worse, actually, in terms of spreading further hatred instead of the tolerance that you've spoken about. In London, we very much saw that actually Londoners came together and stood up to that hatred and had a very clear message. But one of the challenges that we faced, which you raised in your answer, was very much about spreading that hatred through social media at a rate of knots. And I wanted to ask you specifically what action you've been able to take with the government, together with social media channels, to make sure that we don't see a repeat of that this time.
I think actually the speed at which information spreads is both a wonderful thing, but also a really worrying thing. So if it's good stuff and it's accurate and truthful, that's wonderful. Mayor's question time last time, you were able to tell me, for example, a tragedy about the loss of a footballer, Diogo Jota, because we'd seen it on social media. So that spreading of news when it's accurate is really useful. We know, unfortunately, that platform and amplification when it's a lie and misinformation can be really dangerous. And we saw that in the awful tragedy last summer. So a number of things that I've done as the Mayor, even though I've got no powers to do so, lobbying the government in relation to the Online Safety Act. I think the Online Safety Act should be a floor, not a ceiling. I think it should be kept under review. Is it fit for purpose? Because I think, we've got to recognise that things are moving very fast. We've contacted the social media companies to do a lot more in terms of what they can practically do. We know one of the social media companies has sacked staff whose job it was to monitor the platform, and the algorithms reward bad behaviour, not good behaviour. Some platforms monetize bad behaviour. But also, if you're a young person, you go to one particular site, the algorithms mean you get future sites all automatically coming to you. So there are things we can do collaboratively with the media companies, which we're trying to do. Finally, we're also making sure that we continue to invest in the Shared Endeavour Fund, supporting communities to be resilient, stoic and not prone to be radicalised and be more resilient.
Thank you. And it's specifically on that funding that you provide that I wanted to ask you my final question. So obviously you talked about the social inequalities, those communities that feel left behind. There is a significant amount of funding that you provide to information, advice and guidance organisations across London, which is part of supporting those communities. That funding at the moment currently comes to an end in September for organisations like Southall Black Sisters, Ealing Advice Services, Hillingdon Law for All. What can you say to them in terms of that funding going forward?
Well, I know that those parts of the London family, the NGOs do a remarkable job. They've had a really difficult period in the last few years, and that's why we've supported them, because they can reach more people then and help more Londoners. It avoids us duplicating those resources by employing people and so forth. One of the really good pieces of news from the spending review was the government saying that they'll work with us to get a multi-year settlement. That will give us the certainty of knowing we've got 2-3 years worth of funding, which means we can properly plan where possible to give funding over a number of years for organisations like that. They live in cheek by jowl, hand to mouth. Would you get a job where there's a 6-month contract or a 12-month contract when you've got a family and you've got bills to pay? And so similarly, those organisations have got real challenges. If we give them the certainty, they can plan properly, recruit properly, but also serve more people in a sensible way. So we're hoping that leads to better results for groups like that, 26, 27, going onwards.
Thank you very much. And just finally, on this point, huge thank you for saving the Notting Hill Carnival, together with the work with Westminster City Council and RBKC.
Assembly Member Bakari.
Thank you. In a letter to you, Mr Mayor, I raised the fact that there had been no specific training on Islamophobia in the GLA and no response to a unanimously passed motion on a community cohesion plan. That was about 10 months ago. When will we get response on both of those things?
So, response to the letters?
Yes, I wrote to you from a week ago, about more than a week ago now, on Islamophobia training, and I've also asked about the unanimously passed motion by us as well on a community cohesion plan. We've not had a response to that, and that was 10 months ago.
I can chase at both those matters, Chair.
It'd be good to get an answer.
OK, we're going to move on to the next question concerning childcare in the name of Assembly Member Clark.
Can I thank the member for her question? I want London's children to have the best start in life. We know that high-quality childcare is fundamental to childhood development, especially for children from disadvantaged backgrounds, and is also essential for a strong and inclusive economy by enabling parents, particularly mothers, to go out to work. For too long, childcare entitlement has been confusing and overly complicated for parents and carers, with many people missing out as a result. With childcare entitlements expanding now from the government, now is an exciting opportunity to reach more working families. For my part, I've sought to support parents and carers to access childcare entitlements through the funding and design of my income maximisation programmes that Senator Mahfouz recently referred to. As well as supporting Londoners to increase their incomes by £39 million to date, my funded advice programmes have provided expert help and guidance on childcare entitlement with the aim of reaching as many families as possible. My Cost of Living Hub provides families with information and advice on the range of childcare entitlements. The Hub links to the government's childcare calculator, which allows families to make a calculation based on specific circumstances and provides information, family support that can often go underclaimed, like Healthy Start vouchers. We'll continue to explore how future approaches can better target parents with young children, potentially in partnership with family hubs, which recently had increased resources confirmed at the spending review. My support for childcare take-up forms part of my wider programme to support Londoners on the lowest incomes access everything they're entitled to. For example, my pension credit uptake campaigns have helped over 4,000 older people claim almost £21 million. I've long recognised that employers also have an important role to play in improving uptake of childcare entitlement. I'm pleased that the Good Work Standard has recently been refreshed to reflect the New Deal for Working People and includes resources on childcare entitlement. Finally, through my engagement with government, I'm always looking for opportunities to support take-up of childcare entitlement and boost wider family support, including through the development of the government's child poverty strategy, which will be published later this year.
Thank you for that, and thank you for all your work you're doing in promoting childcare entitlements, because I know it is very confusing for many families, and when more families understand it, more people take it up and more people get back to work. By 27-28, child care funding will have grown from £4 billion to £8 billion. What difference is this increase in funding for childcare under a Labour government likely to make for Londoners?
Well, I think one of the things that we know, and the member will know from the experience she has with friends, colleagues and constituents, is the number of working parents, particularly mums, let's be frank, who would love to work but often can't work because of this issue in relation to childcare. So I think the funding boost will mean the expansion of the 30 hours government-funded provisions for children aged my understanding is 9 months to 4 years. And those working parents will benefit hugely in London. And what's also important is support that will mean for childcare costs, frankly speaking, which is really important. Look, my view is funding alone isn't the answer. We've also got to make sure there's more nursery provision. There are nursery deserts around London where there's not the right provision. So what the government is trying to do is to, with support with the workforce challenges, encourage more nurseries to open up as well. We can learn from other cities and other countries around Europe who do a much better job at this than we do. And I know the government is doing just that, seeing if we can replicate what's happening in other parts of Europe where they do this better than we do.
And do you agree that the other massive benefit is, of course, is a benefit to London? It's a benefit to our economy.
I speak from personal experience. The difference it made to, in my family, a really happy mum also being able to go to work because of decent childcare, right? And so we know that not just the benefit to the economy, but self-esteem, confidence, contribution to family and so forth is just astronomical. And actually, a lot of children in the right environment flourish and thrive. And there's some really good quality nursery provision and so forth. What we're trying to do is to make sure people can access that, know where it is, but also having a one-stop shop. It's a really complicated field if you're not computer literate, if you're not articulate yourself. And so we're trying to help as many people as we can to access this helping hand, which enables the child to benefit and the mum often, and the family as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Let's move on to revitalising London's high streets in the name of Assembly Member McCarthy.
Can I thank the member for her question? I know how important local high streets are to Londoners and to local communities. That's why the London Growth Plan seeks to unlock London's growth potential by supporting high streets, bringing opportunities closer to where Londoners live. I'm a passionate advocate for the food, culture and nightlife scenes on London's high street, so I was delighted to announce the successful Summer Streets alfresco dining schemes, which will allow Londoners and visitors to make the most of summer in the city and boost the hospitality sector. We're working to try and have new licensing powers granted to London by the government and are focused on setting a strategic framework to enable more initiatives like Summer Streets to happen. I'm working closely with the government, London boroughs, businesses, residents, TfL and the police to shape the future of licensing in London. Alongside this, I'm continuing to support delivery of improvements in 5 town centres through my £12 million civic partnership programme, and I'm investing a further £21 million this year from London's UK Shared Prosperity Fund allocation to revitalise high streets across all 33 local authorities as set out in the growth plan. And as the member will be aware, as the Deputy Mayor will be aware, I'm also announcing that my High Street Place Labs programme has announced investment of £600,000 in 12 places, including Edmonton Green in Enfield, to develop strategies to improve the public realm and boost economic activity. The new investment will enable London boroughs to develop and deliver local transformation strategies, which can be used as a basis for action by local partners. I know from experience that to support high street adaptation, boroughs need accessible capital funds coupled with a targeted support offer. I'll continue to do all I can to support London's high streets and ensure they remain key places for people to meet, to eat, to drink and to shop.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And the money for Edmonton is really welcome today. And that obviously goes on top of the 1.1 million the Good Growth Fund is spending in that same area. But I want to ask, I mean, it's great that you're putting money into alfresco dining and improving the nighttime economy, but we do know there will be some tensions with residents, and particularly around possible antisocial behaviour or crime. And this week I was with your Deputy Mayor for Policing in Edmonton, and we were looking at the work that your new Clear Hold Build strategy is having in that area. And I know my colleague Alexandra Georgiou, who is not here, has cherry-picked some figures, but actually he failed to mention that crime overall has actually gone down in Enfield last year, and violence with injury actually dropped by 24%, which is testament to some of the really good work that policing is happening and is doing in that area. But will you be monitoring the other effects that extra nighttime economy and growth will have, and be putting the resources in to combat any disadvantages?
No, I'm always disappointed to hear Conservatives talking down a community, and I'm surprised at how much he dislikes Enfield. And him talking down Enfield is not surprising to me, bearing in mind his track record. But you're right to remind the Assembly and those people watching from Enfield that there are some people who are proud of Enfield. and are working to improve Enfield even more. She's right to remind me and remind us there is sometimes a tension, a small t tension, between residents who want a good quality of life, quiet evenings, quiet daytimes, and businesses who want to flourish and thrive and have alfresco dining and so forth, and visitors to the area who would like to have those facilities available. Similarly, the police may have concerns, legitimate concerns, in relation to some of the issues that arise from the nighttime economy, alfresco and so forth. One of my jobs is to try and navigate this, to try and make sure everyone can see the benefits of this, but do it in a way that addresses legitimate concerns, reassures, but also monitors to make sure things are happening okay when they start. And so she's right to ask evaluations, what we're going to do. We'll be monitoring the various schemes that we help fund, evaluating, not just do they provide value for money, do they improve spending habits? Does crime go up or down? What is the feedback from the businesses in terms of the benefit of our schemes? Can they be scaled up? Do they need to be scaled back? And it really is a pilot in the most meaningful sense of the word. And so I'm looking forward to working with the various boroughs who are key partners in this, the businesses, residents, police, TfL and so forth, to try and make this a scheme, these schemes successful. Because, you know, as has been said before in this Mayor's Question Time, these sectors have really struggled. We want to help them.
Thank you. And I recently did a walkabout on the Archway Road in Haringey, where a group of residents have formed the Archway Road Action Group, and they really want to improve their local high street. It's a busy, it's the A1 in effect, so it's a busy road, but it's also a residential road and lots of shop fronts. How can they get involved in improving their local high street?
Well, I mean, the obvious way any resident group can get involved is those decision makers nearer them, council, ward representatives, the council themselves. We're also trying to make it easier for those community groups to access money from City Hall directly, not in any way to inappropriately circumvent a council, but because sometimes there may be opportunities for communities as well. I know that road pretty well, Archway Road, and indeed Nikki Gavron first started a campaigning on the Archway Road that somebody who we both love and adore and miss dearly. Sure, what I can do is write to the member so she can pass on to that group, and we can signpost the group to ways they can get more involved and get support that they could do with financially as well.
Thank you. They'll be pleased to hear that.
Okay, we're now moving on to, I think the next question is nature recovery and the urban e-island in the name of Assembly Member Cooper.
Can I thank the member for her question? Green infrastructure is a critical part of the solution to heat risk. It plays a significant role in cooling our city and building resilience to other climate risks, including surface water flooding. My new London Green Infrastructure Framework and Local Nature Recovery Strategy, LNRS, will help to address the urban heat island effect in London by showing us the areas where the need for cooling and other climate resilience priorities is the highest. This will allow us to direct resources, such as through my new £12 million Green Routes Fund, and deploy action in the places that need it the most. We'll be bringing together the best green infrastructure, data sets to enable better decision-making to prioritise strategic locations and the best type of greening to help with cooling, wider climate resilience and nature recovery. As members will know, trees play a significant role in cooling cities and are already a key priority in my London Environment Strategy and the draft LNRS. Since 2016, I funded the planting of more than 600,000 trees, and in response to the extreme temperatures of summer 2022, our Trees for London programme has increased the number of trees on streets, in schools and green spaces across London. Through the London Urban Forest Partnership, we're working collaboratively to ensure Londoners benefit more equitably from trees and woodlands, and that our urban forest is resilient to future changes. Nature is also a vital part of the new neighbourhoods we're creating in London to meet the challenge of the housing crisis. I'll continue to use my planning powers to manage heat risk in new developments by promoting passive cooling measures, such as external shading, nature ventilation and the integration of green space in new developments. And to understand what more we can do to protect those who are most vulnerable to excessive heat, we've recently launched a survey to hear directly from Londoners about how we can better prepare for and respond to heat waves. It's through action like this that we can better protect Londoners from extreme heat while creating a fairer, greener city for everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Environment Committee actually is just in the process of writing to you about trees. We were privileged to go to Kew Gardens and to see some really interesting work that's being done around their tree collection and the kind of trees that could be planted in the future. You talked about the impact on the urban heat island and the physical effects. I wondered if you could just say something about the need for trees in terms of people's mental health as well.
I mean, I think one of the very few silver linings that the pandemic brought was a recognition from all of us about the power of nature, the difference it made to our physical health and mental health as well. But also I think it's really important to recognise that actually in terms of adaptation and resilience, some of the best solutions are thousands of years old, planting more trees. But what she alluded to in terms of a visit to Kew Gardens, I mean, Kew Gardens, the team there, but also the RHS are doing some amazing work in educating planners and people like me about the trees we will need going forward for shading and so forth that may be different from the trees we planted in yesteryear. And that also includes speaking to our Mediterranean colleagues about what they do in their respective cities as well. And what she had discovered at Kew Gardens in the work, the visit she did was actually we are now going to make sure in the New London Plan it's the right sorts of trees that we're encouraging to be planted in London to support us in terms of adaptation and resilience, as well as the benefits that we enjoy without realising it from being by nature. And that's one of the reasons why we're so passionate about opening up the River Thames as well, the walkways, the River Wandle and so forth, because it's not just green space, but blue space can really benefit us in terms of the joys of living in a city.
Okay, that's scary because you're now anticipating my next question, which I don't think, as far as I know, you've not seen. Obviously, you've just been doing a lot of work on swimmable rivers and clean and healthy rivers. One of the issues with rivers in London is a lot of them we just can't see. So you were talking about walkways. The Wandle you can see in many places now, but there are other rivers that are completely culverted. Do you think that it's worth us considering a programme of deculverting so that we can actually see the rivers and enjoy them a lot more?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for those that don't know, the member and I share the same location. So the River Graveney, the River Wandle, I mean, many people don't realise they exist near where we live. And there are examples across London. I think we've got 41 rivers or tributaries across London. Thames is great and really important and stuff, right? But it's really important for us to think about this in terms of the work we can do to deculvert those parts. And there's now a new phrase. I discussed it at previous MQTs. What's entered our lexicon is green infrastructure. Well, now it's blue infrastructure. And she's right. You go to Waltham Forest now, it's just a game changer in relation to how they've opened up the river, not just the wetlands and the reservoirs to ordinary residents and stuff. So I think we should consider that. The plan we're working on, which will be published later in this year, will have some of this in there because it is really important to recognise we've got some crown jewels assets which we're not using.
Yeah, and I think the more that Londoners can see the rivers as well as seeing the areas where we've improved the planting, the bigger the impact on the urban heat island, but the more that Londoners will be able to enjoy that in terms of their physical and their mental health. And I just wanted to, I mean, obviously today is it's our third heat wave, I think, now in London this year. I wondered if you could just say a couple of things about what we're doing to protect Londoners now from the risks of heat.
Can I just preface my answer by saying that this is not, the City Hall becoming a nanny state. This is us recognising there are lots of downsides to this heat wave. I mean, it's great having, a barbecue and all that sort of stuff, back garden safely, or, wearing less clothes safely and so forth in your back garden, sunbathing and stuff. But there are downsides to this heat wave we've got to recognise. The London Fire Brigade tends to be busier than they've ever been, which seems quite remarkable when the weather's good. But, that grass turning into hay-like, it means it can set on fire pretty quickly and spread pretty quickly. People having barbecues in a public space with barbecues that aren't safe, in a park can often be ignited later on once you've left the barbecue, which is why the LFB advise against having barbecues in those sorts of places. An obvious temptation when you see some water is to jump in it to cool down. Really dangerous in terms of the impact of cold water on you, but also some of this water is dangerous because it's deep, it's unsupervised and so forth. So you will see a number of these messaging from the Fire Brigade and others. When you listen to the radio, go on social media, I'd encourage Londoners to follow that advice. It's there for a reason. And a simple final thing is, the sun is dangerous in terms of heat stroke, sunburn and so forth. It's really important. Basic stuff like use the right SPF, make sure you're properly clothed. That's why we're planting more trees. There are places to cool down. I'm particularly worried about older people and younger people, particularly with respiratory challenges as well. Excess deaths go up when there's a heat wave, so we've got to look after those who are older, those living by themselves and check up on them.
Yeah, I mean, Paris ended up with about 40,000 people dying a couple of years ago, which was very bad. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Let's move on to, where are we? Vision Zero Action Plan 2 in the name of Assemblymember Baker.
Can I thank the member for a question? I'm committed to Vision Zero and the elimination of all deaths and serious injuries from London's transport network by 2041. The good news is we're making progress, with the number of fatal and serious collisions on London's roads falling in 2024 to the lowest level on record outside of the pandemic-affected years. Under the first Vision Zero Action Plan published in 2018, TfL's delivered major improvements to reduce road danger. This included the introduction of the Lowering Speeds Limit programme, the development of the Direct Vision Standard, and faster progress reducing the number of people killed or seriously injured in London than the rest of the country. However, there's still more to do to reach my ambition for 2041, which is why TfL's committed to publishing the Vision Zero Action Plan 2 by the end of this year. The new action plan will be more streamlined and action-focused, informing delivery through to 2030. Since autumn 2022, TfL's worked with stakeholders to shape the new action plan, including through meetings of the Vision Zero Reference Group, comprising over 30 organisations across charities and campaign groups. It also used insight gained from over 120 stakeholders at the Vision Zero Summit in 2023. Through discussions with London councils, the London Government Technical Advisors Group and a dedicated Vision Zero Borough Officer Working Group, the views of London boroughs are also being considered. TfL will continue to engage with its stakeholders, including a discussion with London Council's Transport and Environment Committee later this month. I'd also like to thank London Assembly members who share my ambition for Vision Zero and who've provided TfL with their expertise.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think that's really positive for the engagement that's happening, and I think we'll all look forward to seeing the updated action plan when it comes out. I want to ask about a couple of specific issues that maybe aren't addressed as much as we could be. One is car spreading, the impact of larger cars. Last month, the Assembly supported my motion on addressing the impacts of car spreading, and obviously in this context, particularly around the danger that they can have in collisions and causing a higher risk of death and serious injury. Is this something you're concerned about, and is this something you're looking at being able to address in the updated action plan?
So, I mean, TfL are providing the advice to respond to the issues raised by the member, which we appreciate. Should be where other cities are taking steps to address the issue that she's raised. So it will be an evidence-based response. And so subject to what that response is, obviously the second iteration of the Vision Zero will look at all the issues all the steps we can take to try and, make our roads safer. But I think the best thing, Chair, is if I respond to the member in due course, subject to TfL provide me advice, and we can take it from there.
That's fine. No, obviously couldn't miss the opportunity to raise it under this context. And given the positive impact, I think we'd all understand that, of course, if there are less vehicles on the road, then there's less chance of somebody being killed or seriously injured. So overall, sustainably lowering traffic volumes will have that positive impact. What, in your opinion, the best measures to be able to reduce traffic volumes, but that still ensure that the journeys that are best made by car, so those that have to be made for work or caring purposes, mobility, can still be done?
I really like the way, Chair, I say in a respectful way, the member asked a question. This is not being anti-car. This is not saying you can't drive and you shouldn't drive. It's recognising that people offer the worst injuries and sometimes lose their lives because of, collisions with cars. Cars coming in collision with pedestrians. And so how can we make our streets safer? And that means encouraging where possible people to walk and cycle, which is, safer, or use public transport. But she's right to point out people sometimes will still need to drive, sometimes all the time, if you're disabled or somebody who needs their car because of work and so forth. And so freeing up road space for those people is really important, less congestion, better air quality and so forth, but also recognising there are steps we can do to make those vehicles safer if they are in a collision. So if you're driving slower and you get involved, you're less likely to be in a collision, but also the injury sustained by the pedestrian or cyclist is less serious. We've got the data now for the first year in those streets where there's 20 miles per hour. massive reduction in collisions and deaths and serious injuries. So we can encourage good behaviour that way. And so we're looking at what other steps we can do without it being too onerous, that somebody who needs to drive can no longer drive. And that's a really important compromise that she refers to in a question, which I think we can solve. That's not insurmountable for us to solve.
Yeah, thank you. I hope we can continue to work on that. And that's back to you, Chair.
The next question is concerning flights in the name of Assembly. Sorry, apologies.
No,
Assembly
that's
Member
actually my
Best.
apologies. I was actually too busy listening because I thought Assemblymember Baker was going to bring this up, and so I was waiting to see if she did. But you will have seen the recent announcement from the Minister around shared use bus border, floating bus stops. Those are the bus borders where you step off the bus into the cycle lane, and the decision to pause those. In May, you said you were awaiting more information before making a decision in London. Are you still awaiting further information, or what's your position now?
I'm really pleased I was asked that question because I got a briefing on that. The amount of time I get a briefing and I'm not asked the question is just, it's just so frustrating. So can I just, there are two different designs and two different issues we're talking about. One is the shared use bus stop borders, they're called subs, SUBBS. Two is the bus stop bypasses, BSBS. What the government has paused is the shared use bus stop borders. What they've not paused is the bus stop bypasses. So TfL is awaiting further information from the DfT regarding the proposed pause to the delivery of shared use bus borders across the country. And for those colleagues that aren't aware, the shared used bus stop borders enables people cycling in protected lanes to continue past bus stops without having to merge with motorised traffic. They're introduced when there is not sufficient space for a bus stop bypass and where both bus and cycle use are low. The cycle lane typically passes in front of the bus stop, so passengers wishing to board or alight must cross the cycle lane directly into the bus. Those are different from the bus stop bypasses that she was referring to.
That I was referring... No, I made it quite clear in my opening remarks. I was talking about subs which are being paused, Mr Mayor. And I just want to know what more information are you awaiting? After the Department for Transport have said to pause these, what more information are you waiting for?
We're not. So basically, we are speaking to DfT about the clarity of the timings, what it means for the boroughs, and TfL work closely with DfT to ensure that both TfL and the boroughs can support the DfT in what they're seeking to do, including feeding in the experience and expertise that we have.
And what will you be doing about those that are already erected? We have, in Waltham Forest, we have the second highest number in the capital. What will you be doing about those already installed?
No, the pause is for new subs.
I'm asking what you'll be doing about those already installed. Will you be reviewing those?
We'll wait for the DfT guidance. I mean, DfT's paused new subs. DfT wants to looks at the evidence. We will work with DfT to compile that evidence. DfT will then provide advice. If DfT advice to, what she's alluding to, remove those subs, of course we'll follow the DfT advice. We'll wait and see what the DfT advice is.
No, I'm not actually... No, what I'm alluding to is the DfT have said that something is potentially not working, so they want to pause any new designs of these coming out. But what I'm asking you is what you're doing about those that already exist. That doesn't mean I'm telling you to go out and rip them out tomorrow. It means that perhaps I'm asking, are you going to take a look at those, try and gather evidence, see what is happening at those that already exist?
We'll work with the DfT and wait for their guidance in relation to what they plan to do in relation to the subs that currently exist.
But they are in London, and this is causing a problem to Londoners now, so perhaps it's something that you might want to act on before DfT tell you to.
So I'm quite clear in relation to what the DfT has announced. They've suggested a pause on new subs, so we'll be pausing new subs. We'll be working with the DfT in relation to sharing our experience of the subs. The DfT will then, I suspect, issue guidance and clarification, and we will then respond to that.
It's disappointing you are going to wait for the DfT and not work on it yourself for Londoners. Quickly on another point, obviously coming into the summer months, roadworks are likely to increase in London. The greatest frustration for Londoners being this pushes vehicles into roads where it's unsafe for them to go down, and then sometimes those works are overdue, done shoddily, or nobody turns up. Will you be making sure that TfL fine those that use those improperly? And could you just write to me with the amount of fines given in the last 5 years?
I'm not sure. Does member mean lane rentals? I'm not sure what the member means.
Yeah, in relation to road closures and the lane rentals, can you write to me with the number of fines issued by TfL in the past 5 years?
For fines for what?
For overstay, for poorly maintained work.
So so
No, it's okay, don't worry. It's a clear question, but...
Okay, so let's move on to the next question concerning flights in the name of Assembly Member Hall.
Thank you for the question. London is an economic powerhouse and the engine of the UK economy, the best city for business in the world and one of the world's leading global financial centres. It is one of the roles of the Mayor of London to champion the capital as an exceptional place to live, work and invest in. I've been working tirelessly to facilitate trade and investment deals and to help maintain London's reputation as a world-leading city, creating jobs and prosperity in London and across the UK. This includes through my international visits programme, working in tandem with London and partners, Grow London Global Trade Missions. Figures published in June show that an additional £134 million has been secured by London and partners through foreign direct investment. This is the highest amount secured in a single year. In total, London and partners, which some of the Assembly want us to stop funding, in the last year alone, helped support 110 international businesses expanding to London, and almost £60 million has been secured from major events coming to the capital. In June alone, we hosted 4 major international business events in London with thousands of deal makers, chief executives, entrepreneurs, innovators and creatives from around the world. A fortnight ago, London Climate Action Week hosted more than 700 in-person and virtual events and attracted more than 45,000 people to the capital, cementing London's leadership on global climate and sustainability issues. In real terms, London's total economic output was £531 billion in 2023. This is more than 20% of the entire UK economy and almost the same as the combined economies of South East and North West of England. I'm proud of London standing as a global economic, cultural and technological powerhouse and make no apology for promoting our capital overseas to drive growth and to generate new trade and investment opportunities. I suspect that's one of the reasons why the previous mayor...
Can I stop you? Because I've listened to you. You are not answering the question at all. The question was, please list each flight you have taken for mayoral purposes since 2016. You've not gone anywhere near the answer to that. The answer is you've actually gone on hundreds and thousands of miles worth of air transport when you tell everybody else that they shouldn't be doing this because of being net zero and being very green. So you go out to all of these countries telling us we can't fly, and that's all you do. So will you please answer the question by sending, because I know now I've run out of time, so do you, because you've been watching the clock, will you send us a list of all your flights? I think the Greens may well be able to pick this up another time. It's extraordinary that somebody can actually fly so much, hundreds of thousands of miles, and have the audacity to tell us that we shouldn't be doing it. Thank you, Chairman.
I think you got your point across. Mr. Mayor, will you write back concerning the flight times of flights?
No, Chair. She can ask me at the next mayor's question time. I'll answer then.
No, you can answer these questions properly. You never answer my questions properly. You didn't answer the question. I want an answer.
Assembly Member Cooper.
Mr. Mayor, a reference was made to the fact that apparently you've told people that they can't fly. I think I must have missed that statement. Could you just enlighten me as to when you said that, or maybe you didn't say that?
Well, we can probably explore this at the next mayor's question time in Conservative time.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Thank you, Chair.
OK, we now move on to the next question in the name of Assembly Member Roberts concerning protecting green spaces.
I'm very mindful of the importance to Londoners, including myself, of green spaces such as allotments, nature reserves and open parkland. Such spaces improve people's quality of life and provide significant health and well-being benefits, in addition to supporting London's biodiversity. Following changes to national planning policies which have relaxed protections on greenbelt land, I want to reassure Londoners that I'll be working to ensure that valuable green spaces such as metropolitan open land continue to be protected. London's greenbelt is multifunctional and some parts are valuable to Londoners for several reasons beyond their specific greenbelt purposes, such as areas for recreation, food grain and nature conservation. My offices are currently undertaking a London-wide Greenbelt review as part of the work of developing my next London plan. This review will assess how London's Greenbelt is performing against Greenbelt purposes and identify which areas are the most and least effective at meeting these purposes. Recognising this variety of Greenbelt uses, I'll continue to use my planning powers to protect and enhance London's valuable green spaces through the applications referred to me and in preparation of the next London plan. This will ensure that where Greenbelt land is released, it is done in the best way possible, making the best use of land and improving the amount of land that is genuinely green and accessible to Londoners. I'm committed to delivering a greener, more nature-rich city, and this must be integral to any decisions regarding London's green belt. My goal is to strike a balance between protection and improvement of existing spaces and the creation and protection of new and better spaces while delivering much-needed homes and jobs in the right locations. Any green belt release must be on the basis of building sustainable, livable neighbourhoods and must come with improvements in access to green space for Londoners and for biodiversity. Since 2016, I've already supported the improvement and creation of 900 hectares of green space, equivalent to more than 2,000 football pitches. I've also supported the planting of more than 600,000 trees, including 2 major woodland creation projects. I remain confident that by attaching the right conditions, development on carefully chosen areas of the green belt, done in the right way, will allow us to make a considerable contribution to delivering the homes Londoners need, whilst also enhancing nature and London's.
Thank you for that answer. Could I begin also by welcoming the investment in Surbiton High Street and Hounslow High Street? Nothing for Richmond, but perhaps next time. There we go. So, just on the issue of particularly allotments, nature reserves and open parkland, would you expect that the average voter would expect these resources to be swept away and disregarded as greenbelt?
No, I think the average Londoner wants these spaces that they used to be kept, and he will know from his 3 boroughs, Hounslow, Kingston upon Thames, and Richmond upon Thames, the joy they bring to local residents and people who visit his constituency, including me. And so it's important to recognise that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and he will know that the use of the land in his patch is very different from the use of the land in other patches of London.
Thank you. Would you consider using your powers to encourage or require boroughs to designate high-value local green space as local green space, brackets LGS, through the London Plan or supplementary guidance?
He raises, I mean, he's got wears another hat as a leader of the council, so he knows this. And so the local plans are really important. I know the pressure there are on leaders like himself, because he'll have to show he can build the homes that are required for him to do so, show where the land is to do so, and there may be a gap between those two. And so I know the pressures he's under. And so what he's talking about is one way to protect the land that is precious to the community. And councils often know best what is precious to the community stuff. So we'll be cognizant of those local plans, yeah.
And just on the borough local plans that you mentioned, what will be your approach in reviewing boroughs' local plans if you don't agree with the local stance on greenbelt classification? Would you call in the plan or intervene?
Well, I hope not to, because the conversation so far has been really good. My problem is the local plans come before the London plan, which is just the timing thing. It's nobody's fault. It's just these things work out. So I'm hoping when people are drawing up when council draw up the local plans, they're aware of what's coming. So there isn't the tension that he's trying to avoid us having. The inspectorate clearly has a role to play, and he'll be aware. Often councils represent the inspectorate hearing, so they can make those points to the inspector.
Thank you. And just finally, will you commit today to a transparent consultation with local communities before any greenbelt or open land is reclassified anywhere in London?
I think it's really important to be straight with Londoners, to consult them. I'm hoping he's responded to the consultation we've had towards the London plan. As a champion for a really lush part of London. I expect nothing less. We're more than happy, and we're really keen. Often communities know what's most available for development anyway, so actually using that intelligence is invaluable to us.
Excellent. Thank you. Bang on time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that exchange. Can I now ask the Assembly to agree to suspend Standing Orders 2.9b in order to allow the remaining business on the agenda to be completed? Thank you very much. Let's go back to questioning. We're now going to talk about generally affordable homes for severe housing need in the name of Assembly Member Garbutt.
Can I thank the member for a question? There is no doubt that London is at the sharp end of a national housing crisis or a national affordability crisis, and far too many Londoners are in severe housing need. It's unacceptable that 1 out of every 21 children in London is homeless, and it's unsustainable for London boroughs to continue spending over £4 million a day to support people in temporary accommodation. After 14 years of underinvestment by the previous government, the good news is this Labour government understands the severity of this issue, including by giving us the largest and longest funding settlement in GLA history, £11.7 billion over 10 years. This will enable the delivery of more social rented homes alongside more genuinely affordable homes. Despite the challenges, I'm proud of our record on affordable housing. Our 2016-2023 Affordable Homes programme smashed the target agreed with the previous government and delivered over 116,000 starts across London in the most difficult of circumstances. And since I took office, over 23,000 new council homes have been started across London, numbers not seen since the 1970s. When the previous government effectively banned new social rent homes in London, I created the London Affordable Rent Tenure to ensure I could still deliver homes at social rent levels. The majority of homes built through my 2021-2026 Affordable Homes programme will be for social rent. The share of social rent homes in affordable housing starts overseen by the GLA has been growing year on year since I became mayor. Last year, for example, 2024-2025, 73% of new City Hall funded affordable homes started in London were at social rent levels. And while I continue to champion social rent, we must recognise that out-of-control private rents and higher house prices mean many more Londoners need affordable housing to flourish in our city and help drive our economy. And that's why I will, in the coming months, be launching plans for a new key worker living rent tenure with benchmark rents set at levels affordable to key workers such as nurses and teachers, many of whom currently face unaffordable rents in the capital. In a housing market as big and complex as London's, building a new home of any tenure offers someone the chance to settle down and helps ease the pressure on the private rented sector and housing market more widely.
Thank you for your response, and I agree there is definitely an affordability crisis. And I welcome your statement within the London Plan consultation that social homes should be the priority. But currently, social rent is grouped with, as you've described, London affordable rent, and then that's under the banner of low-cost rent, which is under the banner of generally affordable housing, which also includes shared ownership and London living rent. So these, which are becoming, far less affordable to more Londoners. So I'm just concerned that the social rent bit gets lost within that bundle of genuinely affordable homes. So I'm just wondering how we can make sure that there's a cast iron guarantee that we get social rent through the planning process and it's not obscured by these other tenures.
I'm not sure there's a word the member said that I disagree with. Just to explain to her, the negotiation with the previous lot was really difficult, and this is how we got it in, using the sort of dexterity she mentions. With the new lot, it'll be a lot easier to actually make sure we hypothecate X% for social rent homes. And the good news is, like myself, the Deputy Prime Minister understands the importance of council homes. And so I'm hoping when it comes to the end of our negotiations with the government, in terms of the money I've talked about, there'll be more clarity for the reasons she said, because you can mask on this. But I think we had to do that, frankly speaking, to get the deal over the line.
Great, that's really good to hear, because it'd be good to know if that's going to follow through within the London Plan as well, that maybe we could have a separation between social homes and all these other tenures to make it super clear that that's the ones that we want to be delivered. Because currently there's a lot of transparency and accountability issues within the system, and I just worry that we'll start to we won't get that guarantee.
Well, I want to spare the Green Party's blushes, but in the previous London Plan, the current one, they were really helpful, constructive even, in moving us to the right place. So at the moment, the London Plan is, when it comes to affordable, 30%. We say when there's 100 homes being built, 30 that are affordable, 30% should be low-cost rent, 30% intermediate, 40% the local authority decides based on local need. The new London Plan will be looking for representations from people like the Green Party and others to make sure we can get to a figure that more addresses the affordability crisis we've talked about.
That would be really helpful, because I think sometimes I understand that London affordable rent sometimes is social rent, but sometimes is not social rent. So it's just making sure that within that low-cost rent, we actually do mean those social homes. I also wanted to quickly discuss the acquisition programme that you've got. Obviously, we think this is hugely successful. It gets the homes we need quicker. So I just wondered if you're pushing for a higher acquisitions cap within the next affordable homes programme.
We're just reminding ourselves the reason why the acquisition programme is so useful is because often developers need help. Councils need help. So the CHAP scheme we have, Council Housing Acquisition Programme, means families get homes they can live in straight away. Developers are helped out by flipping it from what was going to be market value to council housing. At the moment, in the current deal we have, only a certain percentage can we do in terms of CHAPs. And as part of the conversation with, I don't want to say negotiation because it's a lot less adversarial now, the conversation with MHCLG, we'll be talking about how we can take advantage of the macroeconomics to try and flip some of that housing that, frankly speaking, for a variety of reasons, can't be sold, used by families who need it.
Great, that's really reassuring. And then just finally, I wanted to quickly come back on a commitment you made a couple of weeks ago at the State of London debate to the residents living in Lambeth homes who are being evicted using Section 21, so that's council residents on those council estates being evicted under Section 21. I think this is really worrying. You committed that night to looking into it, but they haven't heard back from you.
I'll check with the Deputy Mayor Chair. I don't want to throw him under a bus, but let me just check what's happened there, and I'll get back to the member.
Thank you.
Assembly Member Mohima.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor Khan. Just to build on some of the points that Assemblymember Garbutt has raised, she and I spent a lot of time together, and we discussed very similar topics yesterday evening. But I wanted to just build on what she has said. I, like you, have really welcomed the long-term settlement we've had around funding for an affordable homes programme. It's 10 years instead of coming back with a begging bowl every 2 to 3 years, which is really welcome. And I understand that kind of moving towards a 60% target for social housing is really a positive step. And I think that is something that across the Assembly we'd really, really welcome in the new London plan, but also across boroughs to give that certainty. And so that alongside the rent settlement and access to building safety, that's actually releasing more money into the system to build that much more needed social housing across London. And so I just wanted to ask you, kind of taken together, how do you anticipate all of that moving us towards meeting that target and making sure that the London plan is delivered?
Chair, can I take the opportunity to put on record my thanks? I think it's thanks for the lobbying she's been doing. Some would say really helpful lobbying to the government as well, and other channels she uses to lobby the government, which has led to one of the reasons I think we've got this fantastic deal. Certainty for 10 years, £11.7 billion, and part of her lobbying's been is we want a significant chunk to be used for council housing. She'll be aware, because we've discussed this in the past, affordable housing, many Londoners don't trust that phrase. It's because it's not really affordable. But they do trust council housing. And the fact that the Deputy Prime Minister has said, look, we're going to give you 10-year certainty, £11.7 billion, 60% potentially ring-fenced for council housing is just, it would have been unbelievable us talking about this 2 years ago that a government would do that. That is fantastic. But she's right to remind colleagues and developers watching this, the deal means there's certainty if you're a developer. You can plan if you're a council. You can think ahead if you're a housing association, because you know what the rent's going to be for the next 10 years. There's going to hopefully be a convergence of rents. You can now use the building safety funds to deal with remediation. But also you can plan ahead, because you can cross-fertilise the money for affordable housing plus private sector housing as well. We need all of that stuff as well. So I think it's great news for London. My team's currently meeting, discussing, negotiating with MHCLG about how that allocation is done. But also councils are desperate to get building on the housing. She represents some great councils and they want to get going.
I mean, obviously I represent the best councils in the world, but there are others like Shelter and Crisis that I'm a trustee of that really, really want to see that motoring and all want to be part of the solution to that. So that is really, really welcome. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Just before we take the next question, can I welcome a second grouping from George Tomlinson Primary School? I think I've just walked in from Leytonstone in the Borough of Waltham Forest. Welcome. OK, let's go back to the next question, which is youth skills training in the name of Assembly Member Mohima.
Can I thank the member for her question? I'm committed to making London the greatest city in the world to grow up in, where all young Londoners have the opportunities they need to get ahead and build the foundations for a good life. That's one of the reasons why I've invested over £100 million in providing more than 500,000 positive opportunities for young Londoners since becoming Mayor in 2016, and I'm committed to helping deliver a further 250,000 this term. Our £34 million new deal for young people has increased the quality, quantity and sustainability of mentoring and reached over 100,000 young Londoners. London's Violence Reduction Unit continues to invest in supporting young people to thrive and develop transferable skills, having already delivered 400,000 opportunities, including interventions in schools and a range of sports, mentoring and creative activities after school and at weekends. As well as growing the number of opportunities available in our city, we also need to break down the barriers that can prevent young people accessing them. This is why we're developing an inclusive talent strategy that will ensure all Londoners are equipped to take advantage of the benefits of the London Growth Plan. I'm also working with the government to implement the Get Britain Working Youth Trailblazer programme. The Trailblazers will improve coordination across services to support young Londoners to gain employment or further their education and training. For London to prosper, we must ensure there are no barriers to young Londoners achieving their ambitions. I'll continue to do all I can to work with our young people so they've got the skills, confidence, opportunities they need to thrive.
Thank you. And just noting that I've got 14 minutes almost. You'll be pleased to know I'm not going to take 14 minutes. But I could try. I had the pleasure of having Dusty Knuckle Bakery in my constituency, and I know that you and alongside some deputy mayors stopped there for lunch not long after the most recent election, and they were really pleased to see you there. I've recently attended the Dusty Knuckle, but it's a really special place because whilst it's a private enterprise, it's a business, it's in the middle of establishing itself as a KIC, as a CIC. It's a really important place, as well as providing delicious baked goods to the whole community, is to provide employment and skills training to young people who are above 18 for the most part, and so outside of any statutory services, but to really look at what they want to do and go beyond what, if you like, official programmes might be available. I heard of a young man who was starting his own business, a food truck with a grant, and he also had some work lined up doing some chef training after having had some very, very negative interactions with the criminal justice system as a younger person. And so I think for me, these are the kinds of places that we need to work with and to work and to promote, because they provide for the community, but they also generate economic activity for the community and also for those people that are employed there. So you'll be pleased to know I'm not necessarily looking for money, and they are not looking for money. What they are interested in, and many other organisations like them, is to have that facilitated engagement through the Mayor's office and through other parts of the GLA family, to meet entrepreneurs, to be part of, attending, much like the young people that are coming along today, to be part of those conversations, and just to really work alongside. I could pick a deputy mayor. I'm sure there are lots of ways I could cross over, but I would really welcome that support from you and from the Assembly. You know, one of the Max, the owner and the founder of the Dusty Knuckle, said really basic things like it would be great to come and hang out in an office, because it's not something that anybody in their families or from their own backgrounds people would ever considered. But they are supremely intelligent young people that want to get on in life.
Look, can I just... I'll try not to use the remaining 11 minutes of my answer, but I still remember vividly my visits to Dusty Knuckle. It's an... I mean, I'm hoping they don't come along and see the rude behaviour of some members of the Assembly. So I remember vividly the quality of the sandwich that I had, but also the pastries as well. But also the passion, not just the Max and the team had, but the young people I met, one of whom had left prison with very little money given by, they give you like 40 quid when you leave prison, and no real prospects. And it's really difficult to have aspiration and ambition if you've got no support or no helping hand. And I'm a firm believer in, you can't be it if you can't see it. And what Dusty Knuckle do is, in addition to providing great quality products, great bread, great food and so forth, and they by the way, they serve a number of the great establishments across our city with great bread and so forth. But they give young people an opportunity for a second, third, fourth chance. And the lack of self-esteem with some of the young people they work with, and the difference they add, the value they add, is quite remarkable. And so let me take away what we can do to assist not just Dusty Knuckle, but other great businesses in London, whether it's a social enterprise, whether it's a business, about doing more good. And she's right. She gave one example about the office environment. I mean, look, if you come from certain backgrounds, you often don't know anybody who works in an office. You don't know anybody who goes to work in a suit. you've got no way of getting into an office and having that aspiration and ambition that is really important in terms of opportunity. And so let me take away what we can do. As an action, I'll make sure at the very least the Deputy Mayor for Business, Howard Dorber, goes down and sees the team there. Then I'll ask the team to have a collective think in relation to whether it's youth trailblazers, whether it's the work we do around inclusive talent strategy, whether it's the work that we do around the VRU stuff, around mentoring, what more we can do in relation to opening up more opportunities, not just in the bakery that Dustin provides, but other opportunities to give people experience. And the great thing is there are some great businesses across London who are keen to do this sort of stuff. And so we can match up those great businesses who want to do this sort of stuff, the young people with the talent, and almost like, almost like a clearinghouse to get the talent to the businesses.
Okay. And just so I will be clear with my question for the Assembly member, I think my point really is that this particular enterprise, and they're not the only ones, but like I say, I've had the privilege of being fed by them during lockdown when very few places are open as well. One of the really important things that they do is that they have a pipeline of young people that, quite frankly, quite often fall through the cracks. They have supported people to escape being gang culture into really, really lucrative, solid careers. If the GLA and the GLA family and private businesses that partner with us here, if they're able to, and I'm really pleased to hear that there are people that want to receive young people like this. This is an organisation and a company that really values its independence, but effectively has a pipeline of people who want to really contribute to the economic life of the city. And I will perhaps follow up separately. The young people from Leytonstone have inspired me to invite the slightly older people from the Dusty Knuckle who nevertheless want to be part of this institution and the life of London.
Can I just discourage her from inviting them to a Mayor's Question Time? It may put them off politics forever, but it's really important that we follow up what more we can do in various environments, whether it's leisure, whether it's office, whether it's law, whether it's some of the other TfL we can do to give people opportunities and access to jobs they would otherwise think of.
It is a point of information, and I'd like to say, whilst it's simply lovely to listen to a Labour Assembly member chatting to our Labour Mayor, it's lovely. But this is question time, and my last question, along with others, was not answered properly.
Sure.
Can I please have a written answer? I asked, please list each flight you have taken for mayoral purposes.
An answer for you because that information is publicly available, I'm told, on flights. I did check.
Chair, can I be helpful?
Yeah.
Can I suggest you use your office as chair to organise a session about how members can use their time efficiently at Mayor's Question Time?
What, chatting about local restaurants and bread, etc.? Yes, wonderful.
But can I say, it is publicly available on flights. OK, so let's go. A serious question.
I do
Assembly
have a serious...
member Arani.
I just want to come back very quickly on that point, and I appreciate that the member has ran out of time and didn't manage her time to get a question to her response. My questions are very serious questions. I'm not talking about a local restaurant. I'm talking about something that the Metropolitan Police have a real interest because it's a real positive way of doing diversion rather than doing people down. My questions are genuine about representing my constituents that would not be in this building and have the voice of the mayor. So you can have your back and forth with the mayor. As everybody around this table knows me, I can be very conversational with all of my questions. I treat everybody the same. What I will not have is to be dragged into this weird psychodrama that you have.
Assembly member Arani.
It's good to see you here for a change.
Assembly member Arani.
Thank you, Chair. The voluntary sector has an incredible role to play, and young people volunteering for charities and faiths can help improve their outcomes in terms of the skills that they pick up and what they contribute. Volunteers this week at the Wilson Swaminarayan Temple have been leading on some fantastic celebrations for their 50th anniversary and Golden Jubilee celebrations. What message can you give to them on their celebration and the fact that young people are at the forefront of them?
Well, can I congratulate the Swaminarayan Temple for a remarkable anniversary, 50 not out. And I had the pleasure, through Senator Hirani, of meeting members of that wonderful temple at the last Mayor's question time. And we've seen this week, and I spoke to Dawn Butler MP, who's also been to some of the events at the temple. The difference they make in the community is always, I'm in awe of, in terms of how you've got, Hindu Londoners support not just the Hindu community, but non-Hindu followers, which is remarkable. And it shows the best of our faith communities. And, when you bear in mind how the temple's developed, how the outreach work has developed, how the fabric has developed, but also how our city's developed over the last 50 years. I mean, you compare and contrast when the temple was first founded versus now. I think you can see one of the reasons why we are the greatest city in the world is the contribution of that community, and I wish them a really happy and fruitful next 50 years.
Okay, now I'm going to move on to the next question in the name of Assembly Member Russell, and it concerns community engagement with the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller Accommodation Needs Assessment.
Can I thank the member for her question? I'm committed to supporting Gypsy, Roma, Traveller and travelling show people communities. Londoners should be able to access accommodation which is suitable for them and meets their needs, and this includes suitable accommodation for gypsies and travellers. The London-wide Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Needs Assessment was undertaken in collaboration with Gypsy, Roma, Traveller and travelling show people communities, and also with London boroughs. This is the most comprehensive assessment of Gypsy, Roma, Traveller and travelling show people communities accommodation needs carried out since the GLA was established in 2000. These groups were represented on a steering group that oversaw the development of the Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Needs Assessment, GTANA, and I'm hugely grateful for their involvement with and contribution to the GTANA work. As well as attending steering group meetings, community organisations contributed at several key stages in preparing the assessment, advising on the design of the household surveys, recruiting community interviewers, commenting and advising on aspects of the assessment methodology and on draft reports. Steering group members acted as representatives of their organisations and understood the need to keep their respective communities updated on the work as it developed. Not only that, but organisations representing the Gypsy, Roma, Traveller and travelling show people communities have been active in promoting the assessment and encouraging communities to complete surveys. This included producing and sharing leaflets, active promotion via social media, and at the 2022 Traveller Movement Annual Conference, and the creation of a short film to explain the assessment's objectives and encourage households to complete surveys. The GTANA draws on survey responses from around 1,900 households. Community groups also undertook 4 drop-in sessions in local areas, such as community centres and churches, where gypsies and travellers and members of the Roma community were encouraged and assisted to complete the survey. By providing comprehensive, up-to-date evidence on the accommodation needs of the Gypsy, Roma, Traveller and travelling show people communities, the assessment, once published, will inform local plans and my next London plan. It should also provide evidence for partners to develop funding bids where there's a gap in need to pay for new pitches or to refurbish existing pitches. Providing evidence of need is just the first step, however, and attention now needs to turn to delivery. Capital funding is available through our Affordable Homes programme to deliver new or remodel and refurbish existing Gypsy and Traveller sites. I'm keen to maintain momentum and engage to unlock and accelerate the delivery of new and improved Gypsy and Traveller provision across London.
Thank you for that. I have been talking with people who've been involved on the steering group, and it is on their behalf that I'm speaking with you now. Now, if you look at the history here, in 2008, the London Gitana identified a need for 1,626 pitches by 2017, but only 12 pitches have been built since 2008. Now, the draft 2025 Gitana proposes about half of the last target. That's just 851 pitches, which is effectively erasing half of the historic backlog. And I think people who've been involved on the steering group have really serious questions about the methodology that has been used for assessing the need that there is. Now, they've described their participation as feeling like a tick box exercise, and they're really concerned that the scale of need is just not incorporated into the plan. So Are you concerned about the fact that your steering group people are feeling that they haven't been properly listened to?
So, Chair, I mean, I've looked into this, and this is the most comprehensive assessment of needs for this community undertaken in the last 25 years. Now, I know there are concerns that have been raised, particularly by one of the groups on the steering group.
It's not one of the groups. You've got London Gypsies and Travellers and the Traveller Movement have both raised concerns that when they came to the event here at City Hall that they had a lot of questions for GLA officers that were not answered around the methodology and the way that the needs assessment has been put together. Do you think that you could consider getting a pause and a review of what's happening here? If you've got these stakeholders who are so important, this is a human rights issue. It's really important that they feel that they can put their names to this. And they've actually heard last night from Tom Copley, finally, after many weeks of not hearing from him. They'd written because they were concerned they didn't want to put their names to the Gitana, but actually their names are going to be included on the Gitana when it gets published. This feels like a real breakdown in communication. Can you just commit to pause and review before it gets published so that this can all be sorted out?
Look, Joe, I'm under no illusion. This is a community that's been let down for decades. It's underrepresented, underserved. What I'm really happy to do is, because the Deputy Mayor has been closely linked with the various committees for arrange for him to meet with representatives who are unhappy, to try and resolve, to get through this, because obviously the intention is good. I'm clearly not happy that some people are unhappy with the process. So let me ask the Deputy Mayor to meet with the various groups who are unhappy to see a way through this.
Thank you very much. That will hopefully help move things forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you can have a big, deep breath. We've come to the end of our session, so thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your answers. Goodbye to the young people who are leaving us. We now move to Part B. Can I ask the Assembly to agree the motion which is set out on the agenda in my name, which is that the Assembly notes the answers to the questions asked? OK, can I move on to item 6, the proposed delegation of authority? Can I ask the Assembly to agree that in relation to urgent matters only, a general delegation of authority in respect of Assembly powers and functions, apart from those that cannot under the Greater London Authority Act 1999 be given to me as Chair of the Assembly in consultation with Chair of the GLA Oversight Committee, party group leaders and relevant committee chairs from the close of this meeting until the next meeting of the Assembly, which will be the plenary meeting on the 4th of September 2025. Agreed. The date of the next meeting, the next scheduled meeting of the London Assembly will be the plenary meeting, which will take place at 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 4th of September, in the chamber at City Hall. Item 8, any other business that I consider urgent? There is none, therefore requiring consideration. I therefore close the meeting.
This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by.